That's right. Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here. And welcome to the highly anticipated finale of a project that's literally 10 years in the making. Oh man, oh man, oh man, Dragon. We finally made it. It's not just the top 100 favorite films of the decade, part one, two, three, or four. No, no. This is where the big boys come, Dragon. This is where we put on our big boy pants and we put on our thinking caps and we decide, Dragon, what are our actual top 20 favorite films of the decade. Can you believe we're about to do this?
Not really.
All right, well, Dragon, I'm just going to throw you to the wolves right there. What's your number 20, man? What's your number 20? Let's do it. We have a lot of time. We don't have a lot of time. We have a lot to get to. I really messed that up. But what's your number 20, bro? Come on.
Okay, number 20 for me. A lot of deliberation, folks. I'd stand behind any of these movies. They're all fantastic. We're in the upper echelon now, folks. These are like the big boys. We're playing with the big boys now. That's an Easter joke for the kids. Anyway, so number 20 for me is OJ Made in America from 2016. Yeah, this one's it's somewhat a cheat, but it is very
Isn't this one like the 6 hour long one or something like that?
roughly, I think seven and change.
Oh God.
I think it's seven and change. But point being, it's long. Pretty much every installment's
I'm
at
sure
least
it's a
an hour.
compelling seven and change.
Oh my God, it is. T. I keep recommending this to you again. We're not gutsy enough to do this for Black History Month, but I recommend it to you, man. It's just OJ Made in America. This is it's the longest and most thorough documentary ever made. I'll go as far as to say that this thing it won the Oscar, which again is why it's a bit of a cheat because yes, it was kind of released as a series, but it did have a theatrical run, and importantly, it has a big claim to fame. It got the Oscar, and it was so historic that they made a new rule. They capped off like any future movies like this is in they can't be that long. Like 7 hours is apparently the cutoff now for the Oscars. Like you'll never see a project like OJ Made in America, like limited series to kind of like a long-standing movie, because the whole thing as a piece, it is a movie, but make no mistake, it's not like a limited series, but it is very much kind of a one giant story that you need to tell in as many parts as it gets. So you need that. So I stand by it as a movie for sure. Point being, so historic that they kind of made a new cutoff for the Oscars, so it's kind of interesting. So
Right?
this was Ezra Edelman's masterwork, basically telling the O.J. Simpson story in a brilliant way. You haven't really seen before. It's as always, I highly recommend, particularly the fourth and fifth kind of chapter of the story. The fifth one in particular, if I can only recommend one chapter of the story to anybody, the part five is the best part. Oh my goodness, it's compelling. It's like anything you think you know about the O.J. Simpson affair, like myself, like going into it, any knowledge you think you have, this thing's going to go into like an exploded view and show you everything you don't know. We have like these two paralleling stories between essentially basically the revelation of the whole piece, without saying specifically what happens, is that OJ is less the trial of the century, but more a story about us in response to OJ Simpson, and we're kind of paralleling it with kind of the civil unrest of the '90s. So it's very fascinating. You don't think you know where it's going at the start, and it goes tremendous places all throughout. It's one of the most enthralling documentaries you'll ever watch in your life.
High praise. High praise. Okay, so Dragon, let's switch over to my list. My list, number 20 is going to be 2016's Hell or High Water. This is a movie, it's one of the many movies that kind of made my upper echelon, that sort of came out of nowhere for me, Dragon. This was, dare I say, this was 2016's The Art of Self-Defense. So Hell or High Water, I feel like, is just this great, really, really, really define the neo-Western for me, Dragon. Now, other movies like Sicario and to a lesser extent, other movies like the White Wilderness or something like that with Jeremy Renner. Damn. Now I'm forgetting the name of the movie, but it's very much in the same sort of genre with Jeremy Renner in Alaska. But I digress. Hell or High Water is easily the best neo-Western that we've got in this decade, and I love it to death, man. I really do. It's got you got Tommy Lee Jones for one, as the sheriff, basically as the Hank Trader trying to catch these bad guys. But the bad guys, Dragon, in true bank robber fashion, are not bad guys. They're simply trying to pay off their ma's house. And it's a classic setup. It's a classic Western setup, but done in the real world, in the real age, in the modern age where, house foreclosures are a very real thing. Oh man, I love every little bit of this movie, Dragon. The chemistry between the two brothers, we have Chris Pine in, I think, his best performance ever, hands down, from what I've seen of him. And then also Ben Foster, and Ben Foster just delivers just an absolute powder keg of a performance in this one. He's really the thing that really draws you in. Man, Dragon, I know you're not a big fan of Good Time, and this is another Robbie movie that came out of nowhere. But trust me, Dragon, I think especially with the Tommy Lee Jones of it all, you get a kick out of this one. I think this is it's a very deep, very meditative, but at the same time, it's got a good popcorn feel to it. So, yeah, Hell or High Water is like pretty much everything I want in a modern neo-noir Western. And it delivered on a lot of levels. I love it. All right. Woo.
All right. Number 19 for me, Deadpool 2 from 2018.
Aw, I'm so proud of you for not having both Deadpools in the top 10. No offense. All right, no. In all seriousness, that's cool. Deadpool 2 is, it wasn't in my top 100, Dragon, but you are by all means one of the big fans of the character. This is dream realization for you, buddy. So go ahead, wax poetic about it.
Deadpool 2, of course. I just love that we live in a world where we have a Deadpool sequel, and we got cable on screen. So I love that we live in that world right now. Like never in a million years would I imagine. Like 10 years ago, if you asked me, at this point, yeah, probably 10 years ago. You asked me 10 years ago, hey, what did you think of that new Deadpool movie? I'd just be elated. I never would have imagined it'd be a reality. It's an excellent continuation to Deadpool. It's very fateful. The thing that, for me, my big fan servicey thing essentially is portraying Vanessa as Lady Death, which I thought was the most inspired choice in the movie. I love it so much. Cool. It elated me so much because, I always, basically, when we were doing Deadpool, it was kind of carved in granite. This is a point in the MC where we thought we were going to see Lady Death. We ended up not so much, so I don't know if that's the reason. I'm not 100%. Some people argue Hela was still kind of our Lady Death. The point being, Lady Death aside, it was like an impossibility. We're never going to see something like that with Deadpool. Of course, kind of a staple of that character. He makes the only person in the Marvel universe who can make Thanos jealous is Deadpool because of Lady Death. We didn't go that far with it, but still, we made it fit very naturally. We kind of logically did what I imagine you would have to do in the Deadpool story, because those happen in the comics. We kill Vanessa off, but we make it stick in a really memorable and emotional way. I love the opening montage. It was like the one thing we didn't get in the first Deadpool movie, but essentially they retooled the sequence in the first one, and now we kind of did it properly here. Deadpool going around the world, killing people on mercenary assignments. It's fantastic. The whole gold card sequence, as it were. Basically, when a mercenary in Deadpool's universe kills somebody, you get used like a little gold card as your marker. Kind of John Wick before John Wick in a sense. Anyway, So, the point being, Deadpool 2 features a huge family component, and kind of explores the curse of Deadpool. Basically, being Deadpool can never be a happy character, and we kind of flirted with that in the first movie. Second movie, we kind of show that, oh god, we really put Deadpool in a low place. Like, he opens the movie literally trying to kill himself in God knows how many ways. And basically, through this low point he starts off at, it kind of finds kind of solace in unconventional family, and the movie takes a very literal self-aware stab at sequels and kind of a post-Logan climate that we're at now with superhero movies, which is quite fun. X-Force alone is priceless and probably a reason enough to put on the top 100. But yet again, I love the heart within the chaos with Deadpool. It's just right, and And I will say this, the one thing that kind of knocks Deadpool 2 down, the reason that, honestly, if this were like kind of an objective list, if we were going full, if favorite were not in the equation, Deadpool 2 would be on the 100 list, but it would probably be in like the previous listing that we did, because
That's fair.
I love this movie, but the multiple cuts does convolute things, because there's like 3 cuts of Deadpool 2, and still, I don't think they've quite nailed it after 3 tries. That's the thing. I'll take the first one gladly, don't get me wrong. But it's like we have Fred Savage in one cut, and then we cut out some jokes, put some other jokes in there, but we're missing the jokes that really worked in the first cut. So it's kind of it's kind of less is more to its detriment in a sense. Like we add some stuff, we take away some stuff, but you're never happy. But Fred Savage was pretty fun.
All right. Okay, so we got Pink Pearl in the comments. Pink Pearl, of course, my heart's going out to you in these tough times. I know you're going through some stuff, so just don't worry about you coming on and commenting, man. I know you're thinking of us. Just know that we're thinking of you as well. It's all good. All right. Hopefully everything kind of boils over on the other side sooner rather than later. Okay, so my number 19, Dragon. My number 19 is going to be kind of the movie that sort of like defied all of our tastes when we did a podcast with you, Monkey, and myself. Kind of wet your whistle in terms of superhero movies. Monkey got to see like a Broadway house and a performance and everything, and just the whole thing set on Broadway. And me, myself, I got to see kind of like an experimental art house movie. And all three of those things come together beautifully with Birdman or The Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance from 2014. Dragon, this is Michael Keaton's big comeback movie, of course. Of course, he's been doing other stuff before this. He was in the limelight with stuff like the other guys. I didn't call it the nice guys, huh? But this really was the movie that kind of like elevated him. It really kind of made people pay attention to him again in a big way, and he got better projects after this. And Dragon, what I respect the heck out of with this movie is the fact that yes, it does have the one take gimmick for sure. And frankly, I think it does it a hell of a lot better than 1917 does, just in terms of how convincing the cuts are. But
such an editing snob, such a cut snob.
I don't know. I just think the cuts in 1917 are a lot more obvious than they are here. Sue me. It's like, oh, they walk into a darkened tent. I wonder if that was a cut.
Yeah, let's take some stars off for that. Yeah, just no, they edited it. They actually cut scenes in their movie.
All right. You know what? What I love about Birdman, though, is Birdman is a highly fantastical, highly surreal movie that does the cutting better. Like I feel like 1917, it's almost easier to do a more naturalistic thing, and yet this still just really kind of goes out of its way to showcase how you can use this single take gimmick and have it tell a story, have it put you in a heightened environment with the mindset of the character it played the whole time. That's the genius thing about the movie, I think, is that you are in Regan Thompson's mind the whole time. You are, experiencing the movie, experiencing the world as if you were in Regan Thompson's head. And at least that's my view on it, of course. And so it's just a wonderfully ambiguous movie that just uses all the tricks in the book. I love the score. I think it's a shame that the score didn't get nominated for Best Original Score. It's all percussion, and I just think it just gives the movie just this epic kind of propulsive energy to it. Just top to bottom, Birdman is just a wonderful, wonderful piece of cinema. It's one that I always look forward to going back to and studying, and it's got this excellent sense of magical realism to it. It puts you into a time and place. It's a great sort of time capsule of the best of 2014 in cinema. And just an all-around great movie, I think. All right, you're number 18, Dragon.
Hey, Tiki.
Yo.
Won't you be my neighbor from 2018?
You know what? I'm kind of surprised. This is as low as it is, Dragon, for you. But
it's tight real estate, man. It's tight real estate. Okay,
I hear you.
Believe me, here's the thing. I basically, in regards to the constructing this list, basically, I knew where my kind of my top four spots, my bottom four spots were, but everything else in between, it was, oh god, it was killer. It just was. Seriously, because it's just so jam packed with good stuff. And again, we had the favoritism in there. It's like that's where things get really cut through. Because if we were talking objective, "Won't Be My Neighbor" it would be higher. Believe me, it would be. But
I
again,
believe you. I believe
it's the
you.
thing. We're going with favoritism here. And again, maybe there's a bit of a recency thing there. I don't know. But seriously, this thing is fantastic. Only Be My Neighbor. I will give it this praise: best doc of the decade, no question. Best documentary of the past 10 years. Ultimate piece on Mr. Rogers, not just not just a documentary, but just narratively. This is such a great narrative on the man's mission. That's the thing you really got to take away from this movie. It's such a tribute to what the man's mission was all about and how we edit around that. It's not just like, okay, we learned about Mr. Rogers. Like, no, you get kind of a taste of what the man was striving for, and we have like the trolley insert and everything. It's like we're adding. There's such a great kind of like rhythm, not such much a rhythm to the editing, but such kind of a great kind of pathos to the editing. You know, it's very powerful, it's very emotional. We cover all the highlights. The past story hearing, man, which of course I'm going to this thinking, okay, I gotta see that past story hearing, man. I gotta cover like the most awesome thing Mr. Rogers ever did. And then of course you learn new things about the man. For example, the whole thing of Francois Clemens. Oh my God, Clemens! That's the killer of this thing, man. It's the fact like we have the whole Clemens affair. Basically he was kind of a surrogate father, the Officer Clemens, which was just the most moving thing I saw in that documentary. The Tom June ad of all, which kind of spun itself off into a movie, which was also great.
Mhm.
The thing that really captivated me and really kind of factors in the Kidding season two, but we'll talk about that later. Kind of the whole return to the air of it all is the idea of Mr. Rogers kind of quasi retires, thinking he's kind of exposed all the lessons he has, but like the man's mission into the fray. It compels him to come back. I love getting Fred Rogers' views on the parodies and everything. The Daniel Tiger of it all, being kind of the bullied Fred Rogers. All this is tremendous. It's wonderful, and of course, the point of the movie is Rogers is not a story of one man, but his impact and basically his impact on people and those very lives that he touched in life. And that's pretty much kind of what the whole kind of point of the documentary is. Like, it's less about, again, like the man, even in his own documentary and his own biopic, the man doesn't want a story made about him. It's all about the people that he kind of helped love into being. It's such a positive film with such a great message. I mean, this thing is just it's the sentimental favorite in all the right ways, but also objectively just some of the best documentary filmmaking you're ever going to see. And again, not reinventing the wheel, but just kind of making you feel it in a different way. It's phenomenal.
Phenomenal. All right, Dragon. Oh boy, here we're getting into the big guns, man. We're getting into some of my all-time favorites. Oh, this is tricky. Oh boy, this is Dragon. This is the first one. Like the first couple were like, all right, I can live with this being this low. Here we're getting into like, all right, number 18, Dragon. I love this one. It's Danny Boyle, probably Danny Boyle's best film of the decade, I would say. We're talking 127 hours from 2010. Oh God, Dragon! This movie is just survival. It's one of the best survival movies ever made. I'll say that much. What I love about this movie that I don't think other movies, like let's say Gravity, for example, illustrate as well as this movie does, is just the sheer urgency of the situation. Like from top to bottom, as soon as James Franco gets his arm caught in that rock, the one thing that you are thinking about, the one thing the character is thinking about, and the one thing the movie is thinking about is water. That's the ticking clock. That's what the whole movie revolves around, and that's the stroke of genius that makes this movie so damn compelling and compulsive and rewatchable to me. The things that they psychologically do to you to make you think about water, to make you crave water as you're watching this movie. Oh man, it is gripping stuff. It is just psychologically a devastating movie. And of course, then we get into Dragon, your favorite part, which is the impalement itself, which is brutal and has just some of the most god awful, in a good way, sound effects I've ever seen in a movie. You know what I'm talking about, Dragon. Um, Man, James Franco, top to bottom in this thing. It's a one-man show, and he pulls it off incredibly well. I love the trippy Scooby Doo sequence. I think that's probably the best sequence in the movie, just to illustrate the the lost mindset of this character as his brain is just drifting and kind of shutting off in a way. There's some haunting stuff in this movie, and even though it is a powerful story of survival at the end of the day, just this movie leaves some psychological scars with you, and I think in a good way, man. 127 hours is just damn compelling cinema. I will always go back to it. It is, like I said, I think it's Danny Boyle at his finest. As much as I love Steve Jobs, this is such an intimate, personal, and intense movie that I'm never gonna forget it. Oh man,
you meant dismemberment, right?
Yeah.
You said impaled, which is kind of a different thing.
Well, to tell you the truth, he does kind of he technically does impale his arm, and that's how he gets it freed.
Oh yeah, I get it's okay. Well, it's nasty.
He self-impales.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
All right.
Anyway, okay. Also, Pink Pearl in the comments showing our love to the big one, the another great scene with Officer Clones, kind of the precursor to the scene I was talking about. Of course, sharing a swim pool, tell the kids, is okay.
Oh God! Oh, I love. Yeah, don't get me started, Pink Pearl.
Well, you file that one away, T. Maybe draw some.
I know. Okay. I know.
Okay. Anyway.
Oh. All right. So yeah, 127 hours, very 18 for me. I wish I could put it higher. All right.
Feel your pain on that one.
Number 17, Dragon.
Yes. Number 17 for me is a little film called Megamind from 2010. Oh boy, I love Megamind so much. It pains me I couldn't rank this one higher. Megamind, my favorite DreamWorks film, period. Tom McGrath's best work. Of course, Tom McGrath, previously had done stuff like the Madagascar films. Madagascar, of course, the recent thing he had done would be Boss Baby. I hope not the series, but the point being the Boss Baby movie, which
was
again,
okay in places.
That's what I'm saying. It has its moments. That's what I'm saying. Boss Baby does have its moments. But, does it get ridiculous? Sure, but anyway, we're not talking about that. We're talking about Megamind, which is the man's crowning achievement. Oh my God, McGrath. So, Megamind was such a wonderful surprise of a film, and this is like a film in the marketing and everything, myself included. It's a film where you think it's just you assume it's just going to be a really by the numbers parody of all the superhero cliches based on that trailer. You have a blue bad guy, you have a big kind of parody of a Superman. That's about all. He's juggling babies. That's about all it's going to be. A lot more than that, really is. This ended up being such a genius story from the villain's perspective. That's what this movie is. It's like, what if the villain won? What if the villain won, and this led to an existential crisis where he would end up becoming heroic, which is just, I love that cell so much. It's kind of indicative of some of the great stories I've read in comics where, sometimes, like, for example, Joker, Batman gone, Joker either becomes sane or becomes comatose. He basically goes through he has a big crisis of faith. Like, who am I without my other guy here? So it's kind of that sort of story, but from almost like a Lex Luthor point of view. What if Lex actually killed Superman? What now? He's got an A+ cast again. Will Ferrell, one of his best roles, one of his best performances, in my opinion. It's layered, it's hysterical, but again, it's a little bit of everything. A little bit of dramatic Will Ferrell, of course, you got some broad Will Ferrell. You get the whole package there. Minion, oh my God, I love everything about Minion. I love the design, I love the concept, I love the idea, I love the relationship between him and Megamind. Of course, David Cross just being fantastic as this very pleasant, very happy-go-lucky alien fish inside a giant mechanized gorilla body. I'm not making that up, folks. Just, oh my God, wonderful. Tina Fey is Roxanne Ritchie again. Tina Fey, she won. This movie is where I really started to respect Tina Fey. Then, of course, she has Muppets Most Wanted. I kind of fell in love with her. Just Tina Fey is fantastic. The effects, the design, the overall style of the movie. I remember becoming obsessed with the gadgets from this film, like the dehydration gun, the spider bot. There's so much great stuff. The invisible car. Oh my goodness, the invisible car. It's criminal. This movie is criminally, little pun intended, criminally underrated. Yeah, funny action. It's funny. It's great action. It's got there's a lot of heart in a really clever story, and it's like if DreamWorks only had one shot at the genre, if only had one shot at the superhero movie. I'm so glad it was this. I wish it had been continued in some way outside of the really great short film. I learned recently, looking into Megamind, there was a really stupid reason why we never saw more Megamind. A really stupid reason. Katzenberg. He ruined my
Oh no.
happiness yet again.
Oh
Katzenberg. It's
no.
complicated, man. Again,
Katzenberg, the villain of our own
I
life,
I
Dragon.
love slash hate Jeffrey Katzenberg. He puts Toy Story in the play, tries to kill it, but ends up getting made the way it needs to. So iffy. But Jeffrey Katzenberg, he basically canned parody films after they underperformed and basically put Megamind in the same camp as Monsters vs. Aliens, or the more worse of the comparison, Shark Tale. Which
Oh
is and
man.
that's unforgivable, really. And that's why don't have any more Megamind. That's why we don't have any more of kind of like any more like ambitious. Like, what if we took kind of a genre and a parody and we ran with it in a really smart way,
Right.
like a Megamind? So he kind of killed that. But on the bright side, again, conflicted. We get How to Train Your Dragon, so it all balances out, which is we get Kung Fu Panda and How to Train Your Dragon from the decision
How to
maker.
Train Your
So,
Dragon, which is like arguably an even more consistent animated trilogy than Toy Story. Arguably.
well, yeah, I think it's a wrong argument, but fair enough.
I think there is an argument to make.
Anyway.
Anyways. All right. So my number 17 dragon. Yes.
Yes, you're number 17.
Okay.
I'm on bated breath right now. What's he gonna say? What's he gonna say?
I'm Rick fucking Dalton. I'm Rick fucking Dalton. That's
Yet
what
again,
I'm gonna
I'm
say.
sensing a double dose of DiCaprio on this list. I can't tell you why.
Dragon, my number 17 from 2019 is my personal it's not my favorite. It's not my favorite Tarantino movie of the decade, but it's close. It's close. It's very close. And I think this is my out of the two of them, this is my favorite Leonardo DiCaprio role of the decade. Oh, Rick Dalton. Why did Once Upon a Time in Hollywood? Why did Leo? I know he was nominated, but why did he not get even more love for this, man? Like everyone loves Brad Pitt, and Brad Pitt was great, but Leo is just such a pathetic man-child in this movie who has a great transformation by the end of it into not only like a respectable neighbor, but also a genuine badass at the same time. Dragon, what I love about this movie is that it puts you into a time and a place so vividly. And yes, I think even the Margot Robbie scenes have their place in doing that. And it feels like kind of like a modern day American Graffiti, Dragon, in the way that the whole film is surrounded by car culture and just marinated in the past and marinated in this sort of like nostalgia. And I love how it's got that dread hanging over it. I think it is Dragon. I will say this: Django is slightly over it, as you can see in the thumbnail. I do have Django over it, but I do think that Tarantino is just maybe his peak is with Hollywood, man. I really do think it is. There are reasons why I have Django ranked slightly higher than this one. But with Tarantino, just what he managed to do with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, from setting the tone and just really following through with everything. The story is just as drawn out as it needed to be to really fit a satisfying conclusion. I think there was just enough suspense, just enough drama, just enough comedy. It all just weaved together so perfectly well. A controversial opinion here, but I don't mind the Bruce Lee scene in the slightest. I
I
think
know
it's
I like it
hilarious.
too because here's the thing. For anyone who objects to the Bruce Lee scene, Burt Ward,
I
who's
think
actually
I'm pretty sure it's pretty accurate to how he acted in real life, frankly.
I can verify this because Burt Ward's spoken about
So it's like, what's the problem?
Yeah, Burt Ward's, he's spoken about having sparred with Bruce Lee, and again, like him having, I'm sure there's implied to be a bit of an ego, but and, like Burt Ward's won a fight or two against Bruce Lee, so it's entirely possible someone else could beat Bruce Lee, especially a young Bruce Lee.
Right, right. All right. But yeah, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I do think it is a masterclass in Tarantino. It is a masterclass in just establishing a time and a place and bringing you there. It's a great cocktail of suspense, humor, and drama. I love it. I was mesmerized by it by the first time I saw it, and it just grows and grows and grows in my memory since then. I'm gonna have a lot of fond memories of summer 2019 because of this movie. All right, Dragon, your number. Let's see, we're already on what, number 15 or
16.
number 16? Sorry, 16.
Numbers
16. Okay.
literally on the screen. Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay. One word. Inception. 2010.
I thought you were going to say Dunkirk, even though I know it's not on your list.
Inception, brought to you by the same man who did Dunkirk. There you go.
All right, so Dragon, I feel like you and I are basically like trading out our positions with Inception and Dunkirk,
Yeah,
which I
pretty much.
feel like is very respectable.
Yeah. And again, if this were best, Dunkirk would be in the top 20. Don't get me wrong.
Uh-huh.
But again, because that's the thing, I had to make that delineation. In the grand whole of making the list, I wish I really I kind of reevaluated the whole favoritism thing when we did the first part way back when. A few things might have made the list, but I'm perfectly happy with everything we have here. So. Anyway, Inception. So Inception, one of the best original Nolan films of the decade for sure. I mean, you have other really, again, taking Batman, the Nolan Batman trilogy out of the equation in that regard. If you look at the original Nolan films, I mean, Prestige is really good, and of course there's Memento. You always have a lot of really great ones, but looking into this decade, it's got to be Inception for me. Nolan just has a gift for capers. It's really, this is like Nolan's gift of a caper with the mine heist. Oh my goodness, the mine heist! And it's kind of like Nolan's audition for a Bond film, along with the soon to be coming Tenant. Well, hopefully soon coming Tenant. I can only assume it's already been shot. Regardless, through lucid dreaming, and we take the familiar world and we look at it from a whole entirely new perspective. We're literally turning the world upside down. We have mazes, we have architecture, architecture, and just and really fast. We see architecture in a whole new way, which is quite great. I love how we parallel the mind with the real world, like the Mombasa thing when we were kind of rewatching Inception a while back doing a commentary on Mero. I love the whole thing where Mombasa, when it gets kind of like stuck within the little narrow alleyway, the idea is like in the overview, it looks like it's a maze in our actual world.
Right,
And again, we're in
right.
Cobb's head a lot in this movie, so again, we're not exactly sure. Not exactly sure what Cobb's. It's kind of the question: what is reality, essentially? And we're kind of seeing it the mind and the real world parallel itself. Therefore, it's kind of we're always in Cobb's mind, and it's the whole spinning top of it all. I love Cillian Murphy as kind of our MacGuffin to incept within the piece. I love Cillian Murphy. I love when we can kind of work in the movie. I love he's kind of the MacGuffin, but also gets to play with the boys and the rest of the team, which is kind of fun. It's a heist movie like no other. It's got a great cast. I mean, some of the standouts for me would probably be Tom Hardy and Ken Watanabe. Ken Watanabe especially. I love the bond that he and Cobb develop the course of the movie. My favorite part of Inception, no question, will always be the opening scene of the movie. The dream is collapsing segment. Like it's the most espionage, kind of most Bond like the movie feels. It's just great. Again, the Hans Zimmer score in that moment, and just like everything collapsing
I
around.
love the shaking buildings is like a visual demonstration of the dream collapsing.
My favorite mall bit is in the favorite mall bits of the movie is in that where she's where basically she's kind of walking the camera like an ultimate femme fatale as the whole place is collapsing around her. She's not even batting an eye because she knows what this is like. The movie it's pushing bounds like Kubrick did. Shooting films very next level. This film, basically shooting the next level films that he did back then. It's kind of Nolan kind of imitating Kubrick in a sense. This film goes for at least 4 levels deep in terms of the next level of it all. That's kind of the best way it can be put. It's an absolute phenomenon. Inception's worked into the popular vernacular. Some people misuse the term, but the point being, Inception. We incepted the idea. People get the gist of it thanks to the movie. It's a film that made Christopher Nolan a household name, not just the Batman guy. Christopher Nolan's a household name because of this movie.
Yeah.
So, excellent film.
All right, so my number 16 dragon, ironically enough, from the good year of 2016, really good year. We're going to go ahead and flip over to the Leica side of things with hands down the best Leica movie of the decade. That's right, I'm talking Kubo and the Two Strings, man. Kubo!
Oh, I love Kubo.
Yeah, Kubo is just I mean, I don't. We kind of talked blue in the face about Kubo. To put it simply, folks, this thing is just a master class of stop motion. Of course, I love the atmosphere at play here. You know, one of my favorite elements of Kubo is the actual storytelling. I love the narrative of, Kubo actually telling us the story in the beginning. A lot of times narration doesn't work, but for this one it really, really does. It really gets you into the
Don't blink, don't miss a
this
single detail, or else
exactly.
your main character, your hero, will die.
Exactly. And then that weaving into the story that Kubo tells in the village with the guitar and just the magic of the guitar itself being so cool, the landscape of the journey itself, the stop motion, all the I do think that Beetle and Monkey are both very fleshed out, likable main characters with tragic backstories to them that really get revealed throughout the movie. God, I could just talk blue in the face about this thing, man. It really is
You know the
that good.
moment. I'm sorry. Go on.
I love the Dan Scanlon esque ending with the grandpa. That's a
Mm-hmm.
wonderful moment.
Oh yeah, I love that moment so much. I mean, I'll tell you, it has so many great understated moments too. Like
It does.
When Beetle finds the kid, when he finds Kubo, and he hears like the swell of music. It's like, oh, I found the son of my master. He's so elated. I love it.
I mean, there's just so many great visually striking moments. One of the things that I absolutely adore about this movie is the mute mother in the beginning.
Mm.
There's some bits in there that are absolutely haunting. I love just the bits of Kubo and her just like quietly looking out over the horizon at sunset. Just visually, it feels like a classic Dragon, and I think the highest praise that I had for it was sitting there watching this thing in the movie theater, and I think I saw it like 3 times in the theater. It was one of those movies where I didn't want to stop going back to see it because I just wanted to live in that world. And it very much reminded me of the feeling that I had way as a wee 5-year-old watching Toy Story for the first time. It had that same level of magic, that same level of immersion to it, where it is much like Toy Story, a mix of the technology, the artistry, and the storytelling itself that really gets you there. So Kubo is just a magic movie, man. And once again, kind of a theme with all these pre-top 10 movies, Dragon. I wish I could put them higher, but I just can't.
All right.
All right, number 15, Dragon. What do you got?
Avengers: Infinity War from 2018.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
Okay, so Avengers: Infinity War is a comic book event on the big
This
screen.
is my favorite Avengers movie, Dragon. So this is some for me personally, this is an interesting kind of debate we're about to have now.
Infinity War. It's very much a sequel to Civil War in a sense, and then of course Civil War is the big divide. It's the big separation, and
Yeah.
Infinity War is it's the it was such a smart move in the marketing what they did with Infinity War. You know.
I just think Infinity War is a film. I mean, you got the most epic bad guy on the epic bad guy arc. I mean, that to me alone just gives this movie so much warrant and so much value, along with just the team up elements. I mean, it's not a broad spectrum team up movie like you might expect, like you're mentioning in the marketing. But by the same token, the team ups that we do get are all like ridiculously satisfying.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's just the misdirection in the advertising it was such a smart move, so well handled. No one complained about it. It's the fact that it's really, essentially at the end of the day, it's Thanos' movie. And it was so
Uh-huh.
interesting how again, post like that's at the time of Civil War. After that point, getting to be in the interim between that and Infinity War, the idea is that we're at the most unbalanced the MCU has ever been at that time, where everyone's split. And again, we're not sure where we're at, and we're kind of exploring kind of the outsets. And Thanos is there to fix the problem in quotes. Thanos is quote unquote fixing the unbalanced problem, trying to bring his own sense of the word in the balance. Excellent build up, excellent scale that continues through the duration. It basically keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger as it goes through. I love that it's no Asgard. We get rid of like most, if not all. We get like another half of the Asgardians before we do it yet again. The Asgardians, they really don't make out good at the end of this movie. Really think about it, because they're already halved at the beginning of it. Then we half them even more. So there's like a fraction of Asgardians left. We kill Loki. He beats Hulk without any help. He's not even using Infinity Gem to beat the Hulk. I mean, that's an awesome entrance for your bad guy. We show off Doctor Strange, and as you and I have always said, Doctor Strange he keeps getting better every time we see him, especially in the other movies.
Yeah, I think this is like easily his big tour de force so far in the MCU. Yeah,
God, I'm so excited for more Doctor Strange. Even if it's a little bit into him of another movie, like just give me more Strange.
We'll see if the Raimi thing pans out.
I know, we'll see. Of course, the fun thing about the Raimi movie, Doctor Strange was name dropped all the way back in Spider-Man 2.
Yes, I realized this. Yeah.
Of course, I love Thor and Rocket bonding. I think one of Chris Hemsworth's best moments as the character is in Infinity War. The moment where, oh my God, it's the best Thor scene I've ever seen, where he's lost everything, and he's basically voicing this Rocket Raccoon. My father's dead, my mother's dead, my brother's now dead, and it's just me. And you know how I'm this man. I'm hundreds of years old, and he's lost everyone. He's still just smiling. He's just like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to beat Thanos. I'm going to beat Thanos. I'm going to get a new hammer. I'm going to beat him. I just love how, again, he's lost everything, but he's trying to keep a chipper attitude. It's the best Thor scene right there. He's still constantly, he's the warrior who's lost everything. All he has is just kind of this lifestyle and just kind of the cockiness that he's going to win.
Mm-hmm.
So the plotting is just great in the simplicity. It's a hunt for the Infinity Stones. Really good structure there, because we, the audience, know, okay, there's 6 Infinity Stones, and we know where at least 2 of them are. The rest is just kind of like, we kind of have the 2 diverting stories, and of course, kind of factor into the split of the A story and the B story of Civil War. We have the Tony side of things and the Steve Rogers side of things. A little heavier on the Tony side of things. I'm not bitter. I'm just saying. Oh, I kid.
Sure.
I kid. I mean, he caught the glove, though. The glove moment was awesome. We surpassed it later on, but the glove moment was awesome. Again, it's an iconic. But again, as I say that, though, again, one of the big takeaways. Such an iconic ending where we the heroes do not win, as you've said before. Very much kind of like an Empire Strikes Back moment.
Oh, it is the Empire Strikes Back moment of this decade.
Very much. Of course, with the snap now, the snap is now a household name now. That everybody and their mother knows, like, oh yeah, the snap, the Thanos snap. Yeah, that's why the snap was always important. And of course, for me, it all boils down to the haunting reactions as everybody realizing as they're disappearing in front of them. Of course, Tony Stark with losing Peter Parker, and of course, for me, I love that Captain America gets the last word of the movie. Is, oh God, like Captain America, he's bereft of hope. Just, oh God, it's like one of the gutsiest MCU movies ever. Just Infinity War. I will give it all the points in the world for that. Just like never has as a populace been obsessed with like the next Marvel movie's release date. And of course, before we get Endgame, they get Captain Marvel. So anyway.
All right, so number 15 on my end, Dragon. Number 15 is a movie that you're never going to belongs on this list, all right? So I'm just going to rip the Band-Aid off. I don't care. It's a masterpiece. It really is. It's a masterpiece in editing. It's a masterpiece in character development. It's a masterpiece in script structure. I love 2019 Greta Gerwig's Little Women. I don't care, Dragon. I don't care. This movie's a masterpiece, and I love it dearly. I really do.
Hey, fair enough. I won't judge you out loud.
The great thing about Little Women is that it takes a story that, like, pretty much we've all read in school, except I haven't, and You know, some other people haven't. And even if you have it, even if you are familiar with it, it remixes it, Dragon. It basically kind of takes the Better Call Saul approach of like, you know what? This is a great story, but it'd be more interesting if we told it kind of slightly out of order in a very unconventional, non chronological fashion. And they do it. And it's not pretentious at all, I don't think. It really, what it does is it really just kind of like illustrates the drama in a really big way. And, really focuses in on the human emotions of the story. And because of what they do with the structure, nothing in this movie drags. It never feels like we're waiting to get anywhere. This movie has just such a propulsive energy to it. And you'll notice that I've said that term a lot, propulsive energy. And propulsive energy is one of the things I do look for when it comes to my movies. And this movie does have that. So, I mean, let's go down the list of the cast. I mean, of course, Saoirse Ronan is just, she's such a pro at this point. But, yeah, she can play this role in her sleep, and she does. I mean, she's masterful with it. I do think that Laura Dern is a lot better here than she is in Marriage Story, just in terms of like playing to the strengths of Laura Dern, where you get that kind of like the warm motherly figure, and she does get to act alongside Bob Odenkirk from time to time, which is delightful. Dragon, the one who really steals the show that I keep going on about. This woman, she's had a banner year, but I think Little Women is easily the best performance to kind of cap off that banner year with Florence Pugh.
Pugh, man.
God, like Florence Pugh has to play the most unlikable character in Little Women by far, and somehow turn Amy into just this ferocious, self-centered, but still very self-motivated character in the movie that I feel like a whole generation of women and myself are gonna kind of fall in love with in different ways. It's I love Florence Pugh in this movie. Also Eliza Scanlon, Dragon, any relationship to Dan, because she's great too.
I don't think so.
I know. I'm just kidding. She's great too. I mean, Emma Watson, I would say, might be the weak link, just because it's like, oh look, I'm Emma Watson and I'm here too. I'm the pleasant oldest sister. But other than that, the whole movie just has such an energy to it. It's got such a clever editing to it. It's got a meta quality to it. I love it to death, man. I really do, just unapologetically. I love everything about the way that this movie's executed. I think I like it a lot more than Lady Bird in that regard, because to me, Lady Bird was basically just kind of like a little bit more classy version of Juno without the pregnancy. It's Lady Bird was kind of like just another snarky teenager movie, a well done snarky teenager movie, but still a snarky teenager movie. Little Women is something else entirely, man. Little Women is sort of like an epic. It's an epic of human emotion, and it's just a great human journey. And I love it. I love it. I can see why Mo Sislak weeps at this one, Dragon. All right. All right, Dragon, what are we on?
We are on number 14.
14. All right. What do you got?
Captain America: Civil War from 2016.
All right.
This is a tough one to rank too, especially basically.
I imagine this one was tough to rank for you.
Let me put it this way: 14 and 13 are definitely interchanged, because I went back and forth about where to rank these two. But so I love Captain America: Civil War. It's not only a worthy follow-up to Winter Soldier, but in my opinion, far superior to the comic. I think a few other people's opinions too. It used the MCU to give a reason for the divide in the first place. So it kind of used the ground they had set up really well. It's I would always equate it as kind of the grand midpoint of the MCU. I know if you really want to lay out all the movies, you want to do the math on that, maybe it doesn't quite work out that way. But it feels like that's like the excellent kind of middle portion where it kind of split things. The Avengers are as kind of a disparate as they've ever been, and we kind of have some movies between this and then the kind of the closer to the Infinity War. So you know what? I think it's quite good in that regard. So no, seriously, it's the grand midpoint with that split. No one's I love that no one's really the bad guy in the conflict, with the exception of the actual bad guy, Baron Zemo, who can orchestrate everything. I can't wait to see more of Baron Zemo and Falcon Winter Soldier. By the way, they were going to bring this guy back. I'm so excited, but I'm going to wait on that one. Anyway, of course, I think everyone's gonna when you say Captain America: Civil War, first thing people think of airport scene. Which, how can you not? It's a great scene. No arguments there. I mean, of course, Giant Man. I mean, we have a Giant Man. We reintroduce Spider-Man in the costume with kind of a cross between the Alex. Basically, we kind of combine three Spider-Man suits. You have the Alex Ross suit. You got some John Romita, you have some Romita, and you have a little bit of Steve Ditko with the eyes. It's fantastic. And of course, he's really well handled. Just kind of the heroes going up against each other. We kind of take. We take kind of a battle. We take kind of the lethal component out of it. We don't really quite have a loss there, but still, we have these two sides who are both kind of in the right, and they're just kind of going head to head, and it's a very, very exciting action. But for me, though, I think Civil War, as great as the airport scene is, and we'll not take anything away from that. I love Act One. I love the ending of Act One. Act One for me is such a. I love that movie so much. I love Act One of that, where one, we introduced Black Panther in Act One, and Black Panther is so well represented. I could have gone home happy with all the Black Panther we got in this, just in this movie alone. Like if Spider-Man weren't even in the movie, I think I could have, because we had a long portion we didn't think we were going to get Spider-Man in this movie. I'm so happy that we did, but Black Panther, I just rewatch Act One all day for this movie. That's the big takeaway for Civil War here. I mean, I it basically, we add the heart and the action of we had the heart and action of Winter Soldier, plus the spectacle and kind of characters of the Avengers in this film for a proper third act of Captain America's story. Because many people have always made the point that it's more of an Avengers movie. And look, I get the argument, I do, but again, I would argue we move Captain America in this movie, in this film, he moves beyond the moniker. He goes back to being Steve Rogers again, which again is kind of as we've seen, and we definitely know at this point, is kind of the path of Captain America. He's got to go back to being skinny Steve Rogers in a sense, which is the arc. And here he goes to that point, and Captain America's arc essentially is him kind of renouncing kind of the flag, essentially, which essentially is what this whole movie's about. And again, as I said, we'll always go back to Captain America running out of that car to save his buddy and just throw Black Panther off of his buddy at the end of Act One. Just phenomenal stuff. It's got great actions, very rewatchable. It's like a movie, like if you're on TV, I gotta watch Act One. But there's a good stuff, excellent follow up, and again, have a really solid. Again, makes Captain America definitely, I think, the strongest franchise. Maybe Captain America franchise and the Avengers franchise definitely kind of the strongest of all the multi-movie franchise in the MCU.
All right. Okay, number 14 for me, Dragon. This is going back to Tarantino. Well, I do think that Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is Tarantino perfecting mood. I feel like Django Unchained is Tarantino perfecting story and character in a big way. What I love about Django Unchained is how it subverts what you feel about the characters throughout the narrative. Of course, King Schultz consistently stays the most heroic character throughout the whole movie, and probably the most heroic character that Quentin Tarantino's ever written. And I gotta tell you, I really fell in love with King Schultz in this movie. He is a big reason why this movie is my favorite Tarantino movie. But then, of course, you've got the arc of Django himself. And what I love about the arc of Django is that by the end of the movie, you could almost see Django as the antagonist of the thing because of the extremism. And the movie does offer a very interesting commentary on that. Like, how far is too far when it comes to revenge? Now, of course, you've also got Leo DiCaprio. And what I love about Leo DiCaprio is that when you put Leo DiCaprio up against Samuel Jackson in the movie, one could argue that Samuel Jackson, the slave, might even be more morally reprehensible than Leo, because Leo is a twisted character, but he's born of his time, and he at least makes some sort of weird, twisted attempt to be good to his slaves and to treat his slaves right. Whereas Sam Jackson just hates all the slaves and hates all black people in general, and it's very, very black and white for him. And so this movie is just such a fascinating chess match of all these different moral quandaries. It's very much a Breaking Bad style situation with Django himself. Like I said, I love how King Schultz kind of keeps everything on the up and up morally until he can't. Yeah, this is just a Western epic. It's so much better than something like The Hateful Eight. It's, no offense to that movie, but this really is the true Tarantino Western, I think. And while Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, like I said, I love that movie dearly as well. There's definitely room for both of them on this list. I feel like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood excels in story, excels in mood and time and place. And this one is just the characters are just all what this movie is about. And because of that, I got to tip my hat to it. So, yeah, so I believe that's 2012. We have Django Unchained. Yeah. All right, that's it. Number 13, Dragon. What do you got?
Batman: The Dark Knight Returns.
Are you insane?
Really?
No. I look for any excuse to imitate Michael Emerson in that movie. And it is my favorite Emerson line.
No, it's not. Here's why it threw me off. Tiki says, "Are you out of your mind?"
Okay, it's fine. Sorry. Are you out of your mind?
That's why I didn't get it. If you said that, okay. That's why I was at a loss. I'm sorry. It's just actually, he really doesn't like my pick here. That's what I'm thinking.
No, it's a solid pick.
Okay, seriously, Dark Knight Returns. Of course, to clarify, Dark Knight Returns was released as kind of a part 1 and part 2. Then in 2013, they later in that year, they basically put them together, and as like basically the completed whole. So it's always been intended to be the whole. So that's what I went with anyway. Easily the best of the whole DC original animated movie line. Before they had to be all in continuity and everything, so when they just wanted to adapt the books. In this case, they adapted Dark Knight Returns, and for me, maybe an unpopular opinion from the diehards, I'm sure. I think the adaptation is better than the book. I do. I said it. Come to get me, America. I said it. Seriously, Dark Knight Returns as a story, very historic Batman story, very much kind of like, turned him dark at a time where you have like, kind of come out of 60s Batman. I mean, O'Neill and Adams are kind of getting a detective Batman. We haven't quite gone super dark with. Like they cracked open the door. Frank Miller ran with it. We take an aged Batman out of retirement, and the thing I've always loved about the story, I think the anime movie represents so well, is like the core value of the story. Where to me, Dark Knight Returns is a story where each chapter, each segment, like each of the 4 segments, each of the 4 stories that is comprised of Dark Knight Returns, basically two per half. That's kind of put in as the whole here. It's each section is Batman re-experiencing his life's adventures again at an advanced stage, where it's like each challenge greater than the last, almost like an odyssey of sorts. Where basically Batman, he comes back, and that's kind of the first part. It's kind of the return of Batman dealing with his old foes and Two-Face. Then he's going up against the new threat and the mutant leader, and then of course Joker, his greatest challenge. He's going up against a legit super villain, and then of course. We build the Superman, kind of like the kind of Batman, kind of in his years with the Justice League, and just kind of like the whole meeting Superman of like the world's finest days, and he just gets more monolithic as it goes on. I always love that aspect of the story. It was so well realized. We have Carrie Kelly. I love that dynamic. Where kind of really wide-eyed, optimistic Robin, they kind of saved her life in the opening of the film. They have great elements of Batman saving people, always a win for me. I love how Jim Gordon's represented in this film. Particularly, I love when basically Gotham's burning down around him. He says, like, "This is our neighborhood," and the fire department isn't coming. He stirs them all to put out the fires, and I thought that's good. Some inspiring stuff there. The score, again, Christopher Drake's score is, again, what a Batman movie should sound like. Again, before Hans Zimmer did that Batman, the BVS score, I mean, this was the Batman score, no question. And of course, Shirley Walker in our prayers, obviously. I mean, I love her the pieces, but, again, she defined how Batman actually sounds. But, in terms of, like, a composer that we have today, Christopher Drake, he's the guy. Of course, as Tiki said, Michael Emerson's Joker. If you need like a specific Joker, again, maybe not like if you need like this very specific, a scary aged Joker who's basically been catatonic and he's woken up for the first time, like the aged scary Joker. It's like when you're going to that Joaquin Phoenix Joker, I'm thinking about, okay, when we get that talk show scene, if it's got it will be a little bit like Emerson Joker, and we definitely got that here, where it's just like it's oh god, it's wonderful. Do guests get to keep these? Again, it can be so uplifting in one moment, then like it's him. You know, the like, you know all the people I've murdered, all the lives. You know, like I know, and I love you for it. Oh god, it's just it's fantastic. Just Emerson's Joker is so scary and so creepy. Are you out of your mind? We already went through that, but I'll admit the only trade-off of the movie is that we're lacking the inner monologue, and that's the one thing that's the one thing the book has over this movie, the wonderful writing of the inner monologue. But again, I'd argue that we get a better representation of Superman. We have a much more likable Superman because the book's very much kind of that Frank Miller. Even back when Frank Miller was good, it was very much like, watch Batman kick the crap out of Superman. You know, very anti-Superman. He's the Boy Scout. Kick him in the face, Batman. Or here, though, you have Mark Valley being very much like, don't make me, I don't want to do this. My bosses are making me do this, man. Don't make me, what do you want? Yeah, that's fantastic. We have, of course, we don't have that stupid, ambiguous panel from the comic that Zack Snyder misinterpreted and said, like, this is when everyone's asking, why is your Batman killed? It says, well, he killed in The Dark Knight Returns in that one obscure panel. It's like, oh, come on! Animated movie fixes that. He just shoots the person in the hand. We don't make it ambiguously, oh, God, did he through the hand of somebody else, like, shoot somebody in the head? We don't do any of that BS. Jay Oliver, he directed this. Jay Oliver, he also did some of the storyboarding for Man of Steel and BVS. So basically, all the great action, all the great adaptation-related things that made the best of BVS came from Jay Oliver, who did this movie.
Uh-huh.
So seriously, best Batman director I've seen. Period. Just he's fantastic. He basically succeeded in that the movie is not just like dark and gritty Frank Miller Batman, but he captured the optimism in a hopeless future. It kind of captured the mission of Batman in an early, again with the whole re-experiencing his life. It's a perfect Batman story in that regard. You know, they take the best of BVS. It's coming. Everything in line with the adaptation is the best. Is like the 40% of stuff I like from BVS. And when I think of like what it's pulling from in comparison, I like to think of the animated movie before I think of the comic, because this movie it did it so right, got it so right, and it's wonderful. And we have RoboCop as Batman. Just want to throw that in there too for the kids. Robo Batman, awesome. Okay.
All right, so Dragon, my number 13, I feel like for the first time in a long time was a movie that people could rally behind at the end of the decade and say, you know what, Academy, you got it right, kid. You got it right. And that's 2019's Parasite. Of course, this is the first ever foreign language film to win the big prize at the Academy Award. And man, does it deserve it, Dragon. I still to this day don't want to go into many details about this one with you because I know you do eventually want to see it. It's a twisty, turny little movie. It's Hitchcock in all the best ways, you know, like much in the same way that you were making the allusion to you know, to Nolan being kind of a Kubrick. This is like so Hitchcockian. Bong Joon-ho just of course is just so likable. He's a real life Hiro Hamada, I think Hiro Hamada from Heroes. You know, he's just kind of got that "Yatta, I did it" sort of energy to him. But this movie, what I love about this movie and why I feel like this movie absolutely curb stomps Joker. I'm sorry. Sorry.
That's a little harsh, don't you think?
It does. It does.
Come on.
It has all of the same sort of social relevancy as the Joker does, but it does so with so much more thought-provoking and brutal and harsh reality. Whereas the Joker just kind of literally dances around with some of those ideas. Parasite just absolutely marinates in said ideas. Like I said, Dragon, I don't want to get too deep into plot because this movie does have sort of an infamously twisty, turny plot where the whole enjoyment of the movie comes from not knowing exactly what's going down in the movie. But I do think that if you sit down and watch it, you'll know what I mean in terms of like, yeah, this is kind of like playing in Joker's territory, but it's doing it a lot more compelling than Joker ever did. It's kind of playing with the similar ideas of, you know, the upper class versus the lower class and privilege versus poverty and all that. But man, there are sequences in this movie that are just going to stick with everybody for how they illustrate ideas like that. I think Parasite is an absolute masterpiece. I'm freaking thrilled that the Academy made the decision that they did. And yeah, it was just a wonderful way to end off the decade. All right, Dragon, we're getting close to the top 10, buddy. Now, of course, the question is, what movies are good but not quite good enough for the top 10?
Oh, why do you gotta phrase it like now? Why now? Why well, we're on like number 12, darn you. Oh, now I'm gonna feel bad. All right. Okay, anyways, again, folks, it was really hard to make the list. It's really hard. Okay, number 12 for me is Logan from 2017.
All right.
Again, if this were best, Logan might be a little higher.
I hear you.
Okay, so Logan,
the Dolby Atmos experience.
I know, that's the thing. That's why of the favoritism thing, I absolutely had a place on here. So anyway, so Logan, a testament to Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, and for the director, it's pure man gold. And it is. Oh god, I mean, I was in love with this movie from the opening montage. Well, first of all, because of the Dolby experience, I was already sold on the movie because of that Deadpool short at the start of it. But beyond that, though, when the movie actually, I could have gone home happy with that Deadpool thing, and Dolby Atmos. Like, oh my god, all Atmos movies gotta have something like this. Obviously, no, Deadpool shorts have like a little short at the start. I didn't expect. What do you know? Starting the movie off right. No, but seriously, Logan, though, the opening montage just says it all with kind of the lonely life that he's been leading as we see him just kind of as like the limo driver, and the limo driver kind of a desolate, kind of like realistic future we were kind of looking at. It's very much, basically it's the lonely life that he's leading towards the end of the road. That's pretty much what it is. It's kind of like a Logan at the end of the road, and kind of the adaptation of Old Man Logan, where it's a modern day Western. I think it's the best way you can really put the movie. It is a modern day Western with obvious parallels to the movie Shane. They're really telling you that in the movie. Not a knock at all. I'm just saying, like, again, Shane has definitely worked into the whole piece. Of course, big star of the movie X-23. I mean, X-23. Oh my God, this actress is phenomenal. She's so good. Daphne Keane, right? Daphne Keane. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Daphne Keane. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, I want to see her do more things because she still amazed me in this movie. It's still a crime that this New Mutants movie that nobody wants to come out. The only way that I think you're getting people on board for that New Mutants movie is if you put X-23 in that movie. That's what I was waiting for, and they lost my business the minute after this. They announced, "Hey, we're doing New Mutants next." Really? Is X-23 going to be in it? No! I'm out. You lost my business? How dare you? I'm out of here. Anyway. So, I think she was handled perfectly. I love we even get like a mini documentary in the movie with kind of the backstory on X-23, which is fantastic. The Dolby Atmos experience, it was great in so many ways, as I mentioned, with kind of the opening of the movie. But for me, though, I think the big stand, the big kind of almost theme park experience while you're watching a movie was Professor Xavier's seizure.
Yes. Oh my God.
When Charles has a seizure. Basically, the world kind of freezes, and you have this intensity. Or basically, the only person who can move would be Logan and X-23, Laura. So basically, they're the ones who can be able to move through the sequence, and just like the whole theater is shaking, and with the sound in your chairs, you're put into the mindset of Logan trying to make his way through kind of this sea of psychic energy. And oh my God, it's classic X-Men stuff, but it's also just it's intense, and it gives you a little sense of what they don't really show. The only knock I could ever give Logan is that we allude to it, and I guess we don't need to see it, but we always alluded to the fact that Xavier killed the X-Men, which is even more tragic. And the idea is that Logan tried to hide this from Xavier. In his last moments, he remembers what he did, which is so tragic and so sad that he remembers that, oh God, he killed the X-Men.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so it's a film that explores kind of the end of the road for a comic book hero in a real situation, which again is very much kind of like we're doing a deconstructionist thing about comics and kind of about the X-Men in a really smart way, but in a really dramatic and really kind of a gritty Western sense. It's Logan, he literally faces his inner monster in X-24. The scene that he buries Xavier, which is still the most crushing scene, one of the most crushing scenes in the movie to me, just seeing him kind of bury his father figure, and And of course, I remember when Adam West passed away. It's like I imagine this scene popping up. Like basically Logan can't put into words the way he's feeling. He just tries to give a eulogy, but he just can't muster the words. It always hit me about Jackman's performance in that scene, and of course, ending is a
Oh
work of
yeah.
art, man. The ending's work.
Oh yeah.
Basically,
Symbolism. So
and
much
this the
symbolism.
most touching, most brilliant thing about this ending is that thing always struck a chord with me is that as much as he fought in life as much as he fought it in life, in the end, he found a life, he found a family, unconventional, but he found a family, and at the end of the day, he was an X-Men in the end. He fought it tooth and nail since the beginning. Like, what do you expect to put us in yellow spandex? He fought it so much at the beginning. But again, he was an X-Men in the end with that little headstone bit, and
Oh yeah.
it's just and he also inspired and saved the next generation, just like Charles would have wanted. Man, that's beautiful. That's beautiful
Oh
stuff.
god. You okay, Dragon?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay. All right, let's see. My number 12, getting down there. Oh boy. All right. So this won't take long because it's a movie that you already mentioned. My number 12 is Please won't you be my neighbor? Um okay, so yeah, first of all, the pool. The pool is just oh god, just easily the most impactful visual of the film, just kind of like the white legs and the black legs wading in the pool water together. It just represents so much of Fred Rogers' philosophy. I mean, what more needs to be said about this movie? It's the best. It's the best documentary of the decade. The fact that the Academy didn't even nominate it is just utterly like maddening. And what the hell were they
The
thinking?
dumbest,
And yada yada yada.
probably the second dumbest thing the Academy did in the last 10 years. Of course, the first being the whole swapperoo on the whole on the whole Best Picture winner.
Yeah, and then the best animated film 2014 was kind of a joke as well.
I think again, it's kind of like a third place runner too. But I mean, point being, top three, sure.
All right, so yeah, it won't be my neighbor. I just think it's a very impactful film. I just think from a sociologist, sociologist. Thank you. Yeah, Jesus Christ. We need it, Dragon. We need it. We just need it. It's the kind of film that exists to remind us to be good people. And that's why I love it. And why the hell can't the Academy acknowledge that? Kind of breaks my heart in that regard.
It's so funny you mentioned the Academy.
I'm just saying. So yeah, just overall, I feel like we kind of talked blue in the face about why this is a very effective documentary. Of course, the Daniel Tiger of it all is kind of the big heartbreaking thing for me. Just the fact that he put all his insecurities and fears into the Daniel Tiger character.
Sometimes I feel that I'm a mistake. Like, oh
Oh
my
my
God.
god.
The thing that is burned into my mind from that film is that music cue where it's the perfect cut in the whole thing. Where
Right.
sometimes I wonder if I'm a mistake and we hear like the like a little piano key, and then we cut to he just made himself I don't know if I'd have the guts to do that the way like the next commenter says on the screen, like that's a perfect cut right there. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, well said. Well said. So yeah, just overall, Won't You Be My Neighbor? Just very emotionally impactful. I feel like it's the kind of film we absolutely needed. It came at the right time and place, and it led to the great Tom Hanks movie. And I feel like it's going to lead to just more and more of it. I feel like it also maybe inadvertently led to Kidding, or at least Kidding being as popular as it is. So it definitely led to a revival of interest in Mr. Rogers, to be sure. And for that alone, I feel like it deserves a spot on my list for just goodwill purposes, Dragon. It really is just kind of like the goodwill movie of the decade.
All right.
All right, number 11, Dragon. Oh, God.
So, funny enough, you mentioned the Academy, and earlier with Parasite, this is basically my Parasite. You say sometimes, old son Academy Awards, sometimes you get it right. Sometimes you go home happy. Sometimes you blow the Death Star. We can go home, kid. Sometimes you get it just right. In this case, they did with number 11, The Shape of Water from 2017.
Nice, nice.
Oh man, I here's the thing again. If this were objective, you better believe this is my artsy pick, man. This is my art. This is my Oscar pick of the whole
I
thing.
know it is, man. I know it is. I know it
You
is.
know how much I
It
love
never quite resonated for me as much as it resonates for you. I respect it more than I love it. You love it, and I totally respect
It's easily
that.
my parasite in
Uh-huh.
your thing. I the Shape of Water, man. I'm sorry, I love this one so much. Okay, this is Del Toro's masterpiece. My favorite Oscar winner. If I like in the last thing, if I can just like hang a shingle and like the movies, when you say the Oscars get it right, it would be The Shape of Water. That we actually gave it to like a movie you can get behind instead of just like a movie that just kind of lucks into the Oscar or like a political pick or oh God knows how many reasons, all the reasons like well we need a movie to get the Oscar and we're trying to shake it up so we give it the unconventional one. In this case, no, this one actually it's well earned. One of the most beautiful love stories I've ever seen on film. One of them. I wish. Oh God, I part of me wishes they could fully have just gone the way of like they could call it like Creature from the Black Lagoon or the Gill Man, like basically because again essentially it's unofficially the ultimate Creature from the Black Lagoon movie because essentially that's what Del Toro is making it as. It's a tribute to the Creature from the Black Lagoon. It's like a part of you wishes they could just kind of like fully just if the Universal monster franchise thing ever could have just called this officially the Creature from the Black Lagoon movie, they'd be in such good shape right now. They
Well,
really
they
would.
really would, man.
That's what I'm saying. You have this and Invisible Man, they'd be in excellent shape.
I haven't seen Invisible Man yet. I'm trying to see it before Memoirs.
I heard it was really good. That's what I heard.
Yeah.
Anyway. Okay, so this film is a perfectly, in my mind, is a perfectly constructed film. The romance is very natural. It's an unconventional romance for sure. All your players are doing such a great job. Richard Jenkins, especially, I love Richard Jenkins as Giles. He's kind of the main supporting character of the film. He brings it big time, man. We give him a lot of really important bits in the movie. For example, I think he has two really big scenes. There's a scene with the creature itself in the bathtub, where basically he's talking to the creature and he's kind of sketching him, and he's the artist of it all, and he kind of speaks about like I'm gonna look at my reflection. I see myself getting my hands are old. They don't seem like my hands. That's a great scene. But of course, the fact that he gives the opening and the full circle speech of the film. Oh God, Jenkins. He kind of closes and opens the movie beautifully. We show basically we show these basically we show in kind of we show an unromanticized 60s. That's kind of our setting here. See the kind of an unromanticized version of the 60s for everyone. We reverse the roles of kind of of the heroes and the monsters. Again, very much kind of like a Beauty and the Beast parallel. If you want to go for the layman's kind of thing, it's an adult Beauty and the Beast. If you want to go kind of the layman's path here, Michael Shannon is kind of your Gaston role, and Michael Shannon is so commanding and terrifying as the real monster of the piece. And basically, this man of the future of kind of the retro futuristic 60s. Like this is what the G-Man should be. Versus versus an ancient creature from the past in the Gill Man essentially, and with more humanity, which is great. I'm still blown away by the suspended water effect. The fact that we sell underwater, but basically we color code the set, we hang them by wires and like add cannons and stuff. And like, oh my God, I would have millions would have guessed. We did this movie as practically as you could. Like we're hanging people. Basically, we're practically putting people underwater without them actually having to go underwater. Doug Jones, practically, he's very practically in the suit for the whole duration of the film. He's again. There's an Oscar snub for you right there. Suit performance. That's why we need to add more of the like your Andy Serkises and your Doug Jones of the world. They need to get Oscar nominations for work like this. They really do. The ending with the money shot, of course, and the posters and everything. The money shot kind of kiss of the movie. Jenkins reading the poem basically for the namesake of the movie, the whole Shape of Water poem of it all. It's such powerful stuff, and I love the end, how the ending's up to interpretation. The idea that Giles, his character, he does not know what happens. It could be a negative thing, or it could be like a tragic romance where she it's an unhappy ending, but again, like he doesn't know it. I mean, he never saw her again. I love how he romanticizes the ending, and I like to think it's the romanticized version. I love to think that it's just cinema magic, man. It's cinema magic in all the right ways. And as Del Toro said from the beginning, so on in the movie, it's a fairy tale for troubled times, and it is. And it's
totally.
glorious. It's a perfect film in every way. Everything has a purpose. It's like it's a Swiss watch, man. It's a Swiss watch or a Swiss
Oh
egg if
God.
you're asking Peter Gold.
All right. Well said, Dragon. Well said. Okay. Oh boy, this is where things get tricky for me, Dragon. It really is. Oh, I don't want to do this. This was a hard cut, Dragon. This was a hard cut to keep out of the top 10, all right? It really was.
What do you think Shape of Water
Oh,
was? What do you got?
Inside Out. Inside Out at number 11. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Tiki, I have
The
3 words.
Oh God.
They actually make that 5 words. I'm not proud of my boy. Darn it, 6 words. I'm not proud of my boy.
Well, I'm not proud of you for not knowing the correct number of words in that little math boy. Anyways.
Sorry, who told you what order we're going in today?
All right, so Inside Out is just unequivocally, it's a Pixar masterpiece, all right? And the only reason why it's not in my top 10 is just because I struggled with 2 Pixar movies being in my top 10. Ultimately went with Coco as the ambassador for the top 10, but this, as you can tell, I pretty much got it as close to the top 10 as I possibly could while keeping the one Pixar movie in the top 10 rule in check. So, I mean, Inside Out is just obviously bursting with creativity. The characters just all come alive in such vivid ways. I feel like the arc between joy and sadness is maybe the best Pixar odd couple that we've ever seen. I love the way that Riley Anderson herself works as a character and as a protagonist and someone you want to get behind. But by the same token, she also very much is this kind of big Deus Ex Machina of the whole plot, and she works in kind of both those ways within the context of the movie. I mean, just everything about this movie is like really, really just top priority Pixar imagination at its finest. The road trip element is maybe one of the better Pixar road trip movies because of just how much creativity is thrown at us, from the abstract dreams to or the abstract thoughts to the dream factory to the the stuff with Bing Bong, and everything in between just gives such a great culmination at the end of the film with sadness becoming joy, inviting for young kids to be taught in a lesson that adults need to embrace as well. I think Code just has a little bit more traditional kind of like, heroes and villains and that kind of stuff going for it. But Inside Out is very unconventional, very much a just a madcap road journey with a lot of heart, a lot of emotion, and I can't speak highly enough about it. And like I said, it was a challenge not putting it on the top 10. It really is. I don't know what to tell you. Whew. All right, Dragon, getting into your top 10. What do you got?
All right. Number 10. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse from 2018.
All right. All right.
All right, so basically, the long and short of it is, it's the Lego Batman movie, but for Spider-Man, and it's amazing. Get it? No, but seriously, it is amazing. It's awesome. This is the ultimate celebration of Spider-Man. I mean, you have the look, the style. It's unlike anything you've ever seen. It's a comic book. Basically, it's a comic book come to life in a way that you never think it would have been. I mean, again, you think like, why hasn't Sony been making animated Spider-Man movies since the beginning, man? Why haven't in this whole rebranding of things? Like, why are we getting like Morbius and everything? We could have more animated Spider-Man movies. This movie, it sells you on Miles Morales. His character I've always wanted to get into, but never had quite the occasion to. This movie comes up, and the occasion to. Very nice. It's this genius thing where we're using Miles Morales as our main character, and we're using kind of the grander whole of the Spider-Verse as a way of kind of conveying the message, the very important message, the enable lesson, the message of Spider-Man that anyone can be Spider-Man. and we're doing it through a kid who's really unsure of himself, much like all the kids who could be potentially watching this movie or getting into the character for the first time, or you think, I'm only interested in the Peter Parker Spider-Man. Well, there are other Spider-Man. There's other. Again, we don't want to just like put them into a box. Like now at this point, we know, we've seen Peter Parker Spider-Man. We got that in the MCU. We're perfectly content with that. Let's think outside the box. So our Spider-Men, the various Spider-Men from the Spider-Verse, they're very cool. There's so many great iterations. I mean, Spider-Gwen, very really great character there. Many people have a diehard fan base for her. You have Spider-Ham, and of course, my favorite, Spider-Man Noir. Oh god, of course, Nick Cage do an excellent job as Spider-Man Noir. Just oh god, it's so much fun, so well realized. And again, they didn't skirt beyond anything. He is Spider-Man Noir made even better. So, I mean, again, you give any of these, you give them all spin-offs, honestly. I don't know why this is just like approved with starring off Spider-Man Noir in the first place, but the point is, we get all these character spin-offs. Black and white animated detective movie. Just saying, just throwing it out there. If we're going to outsource it to anybody.
We're craving the black and white detective movie, folks. We'll do anything for it.
But seriously, though, if any character would be perfect for it, though, if any one character. Anyway, okay, point being, it's very compelling. I think, but outside of just kind of our other alternative Spider-Man, I think I love our compelling Spider-Man in both Chris Pine as kind of the 10-year Spider-Man, of course, Jake Johnson as Peter B. Parker, kind of our mentor Spider-Man within this piece. I mean, I just love such a perfect sell of the character within the Chris Pine. He's everything he's kind of our perfect baseline. This is Spider-Man, kind of the aspiring hero we all know and love. Jake Johnson is that same character, but again, he's realistically kind of the Spider-Man 2 version of Spider-Man in a sense. He's the Spider-Man who's been through the ring. He was kind of contemplated giving up a number of times. He's the Spider-Man who's don't say great power, great responsibility. I'm done with it. That's Spider-Man. He's great. He's the complicated Spider-Man. He's the reason you love Spider-Man, because Spider-Man realistically has the doubts that you or I would have in the suit. Mm-hmm. Beyond that, I mean, Kingpin, I love him as just a choice of villain, but two, we got his motivation just right with the Vanessa of it all, which of course for me is like that's you're getting the Kingpin just right. We have the family angle worked in there, and Liv Schreiber in the role. There's all this, we're getting it all right with the Kingpin of all the characters. Went with Kingpin, just sweet pull there. It's fun. It's action packed. It's hilarious, and it gets you in the spider feels. It's quite an inspiring. It's quite an inspiring piece for all to enjoy. It's phenomenal. I can't get enough of it. Very rewatchable.
Ooh, okay. So my number 10 Dragon, of course, we talked blue in the face about this one. I don't have too much more to say about it, but it is very much did make my top 10 of the decade, and it is my favorite Christopher Nolan film of all time, I would say. That's got to be Dunkirk, man. It's got to be Dunkirk. Dunkirk. So what do I love so much about Dunkirk? I love how much of a risk this film is from an experimental, there's no other war movie like it. There's no other war movie that just says, you know what? We know what character development is like in war movies. We know that there's always going to be the guy who has the brother back home, or who has the dying mother, or who has the
girlfriend, or
right, exactly. In these sorts of situations, we don't have time to think about that stuff anyway. So Dunkirk cuts out the middleman, and it just becomes like 100 minutes of just pure nonstop adrenaline, and I love it. Christopher Nolan, of course, not known as the most, brief filmmaker, in terms of actually, his last movies were like Dark Knight Rises and Interstellar, which were both, very, very, very long movies, pushing 3 hours. And then before that, we had Dark Knight, just The Dark Knight, and then Inception were both pushing 2.5 hours. So, Dragon, I gotta say, it was such a relief to have a war movie be so stripped down like this, because war movies in general can be so long. And what this movie does really well is it just absolutely gives you the feel of war. It gives you the triumph of the men on the boat. It gives you the terror of the men on the beach. It gives you the absolute, just balls of steel heroism of the men on the plains. And it does so, it weaves its way through with that tapestry of time that we talked blue in the face about, on and on and on, that I just think it's Nolan's best. It's Nolan's best structure and best framing device so far. I can't imagine another filmmaker could have thought up and executed it the way that Nolan did. I think it's just iconic. It kind of changed the way that I think about how to tell movies. We actually just did a trip report in Dunkirk style that I think turned out way better than it really had the right to. So yeah, Dunkirk I feel like is an iconic movie. Of course, this is 2017, right, Dragon, or 2018?
It's 2017. It's 2017.
17. Okay, and Inside Out was 2015, just for the record.
Yes.
So yeah, Dunkirk. Won't You Be My Neighbor? 2018. I think I said that one. Anyways, so yeah, Dunkirk, like I said, just very much an influential film. I feel like it's going to, as years go on, people are just going to take more and more influence over it. And I feel like it's the new gold standard. It kind of eclipsed Saving Private Ryan as the gold standard for war movies going forward, I think. At least for me.
Mm-hmm.
All right, number 9, Dragon. Number 9.
Right. Number 9 is Coco from 2017.
Well, what do you know, Dragon? So is mine.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm serious. My number 9 is Coco. Yeah.
Crazy. All right. Well,
so
I guess we'll team up on this.
Talk about it. Yeah, tag team this one.
All right. So Coco, of course, best representation of Dias de los Muertos I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
Pixar's first musical. They found a way. Here's a really remarkable thing. I was thinking about Coco recently. Tell me if you agree with this. Is that I love that Pixar, they found a way to kind of one up Disney in a sense, where we're going to work narrative magic into "Remember Me" to our main song of the movie. We're going to keep it coming back, and each time it's going to narratively mean something different that's going to fit into the overall story. Take that, Disney.
There's so many things about Coco. I think out of any Pixar movie, it's got complex characters up there with a lot of them. I would say especially the 1-2 punch of Imelda and Hector are just, oh my god, just the most complex characters that Pixar's ever done to a certain extent.
I adore Mama Imelda so much. Oh my god, I love Mama
Imelda. And the rest of the family is very fun and quirky, and they all have their comedic moments, and that's fine. I love Ernesto de la Cruz as a villain. I feel like he is a great Pixar villain, a great one. He's
one of the old time
like of Lotso and Hopper, I think.
He is just one of the old time, one of the great villain reveals of all time. Of course, basically kind of like a combination of Sinatra and Bob Kane in a sense when you really boil it down. Kind of Sinatra meets Bob Kane, but obviously with kind of a little bit more of a Latin lover kind of applied to it all.
Right. The world, Dragon. The world.
So many skulls built into the design everywhere. I mean, the skeletal animation itself is already the character animation is great. Of course, the dynamic between Hector and Miguel is phenomenal. Of course, and of course, like the ticking clock of the movie too. Miguel turning into a skeleton, but again, like he's not like fully skeleton. Basically, he has a translucent. It's like the translucent skin effect looks really good. I mean, you want to talk about like next level animation, the hairless dog. Like, there's rarely a call in life for hairless dog animation. And not only do we have hairless dog animation, we have a hairless dog who become a God, what is it? God, I'm blanking on it right
an Albrique?
Alabrique, right?
Yeah, something like that.
An Alabrique. Anyways, just like basically like a glow in the dark. Got a mystical animal of some variety. It's even better. Just oh god, it's Coco's just basically it's Leon just like putting the elbow grease into it. Like, how can we make this even better? Okay, how can we dive into the Dios de los Muertos lore even more? Albrijes. Okay, let's do that. Just of course, the best thing about Coco. I mean, one again, I love the family history, the whole anti-musician angle with the whole family getting started from Mama Imelda, but of course the emotional climax. That's why it's on the list. The emotional climax. If it already wasn't on the list, that's what cinches it. Just the whole we reawaken kind of the youth of Coco through song, the song their fathers sang to her. It's wonderful, and it's everything I love about Pixar in a moment.
Not only that, but I mean, you get the ending with, and I gotta tell you, Dragon, one of the most cathartic moments of all of Pixar animation is seeing the look of relief on Hector's face when he finally gets to cross that damn bridge, shoes intact. Right?
Yes. You know, it always, again, I love kind of the transit, not transit, but basically the security
the toll
lady.
Station.
What station?
The toll station.
Yes, the toll station.
Yeah.
Yes,
I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
I love every character.
Where she's like doing her job, but she's still invested in it.
Exactly. When she recognizes that Frida Kahlo is not Frida Kahlo, it's actually Hector. It's like she knows all the tricks. Like, oh, it's wonderful.
8.
Okay, number 8 for me. Let's just keep this Pixar train a moving. Inside Out from 2015.
Damn, there was a possibility if you would have picked a Marvel movie that we could have gone like a 8-7 or a 9-8. I mean, anyways,
that'd be crazy.
So Inside Out is your pick?
Yes, Inside Out is my pick. Yes.
Okay,
it was really close.
This one, so
I can't tell you how hard it was between Coco and Inside Out, because that's the omnipresent struggle of the decade. Coco versus Inside Out. You know what's? Oh god, it's the original Pixar movie pick. Oh god, it's the omnipresent battle. All right, so Inside Out, the Pixar film that almost broke Pete Docter. Seriously, almost broke me. I was contemplating leaving the studio, man. It really was leaving the project at least. I mean, the movie already, it has you from Bundle of Joy. Just like the Giacchino score. Oh my goodness, it's definitely the smartest Pixar film ever made. I'll go as far as to say that, man. It's the smartest film ever made. Not just with the logic and the world building that Pixar has always kind of a mastery of, but in its emotional intelligence, with all the many shades of all the subtle shades of the emotions. Like again, like Joy's a little. She's irritated with sadness, but her emotional range can't have her be irritated. So she is, she's joyful, but it's like a restrained joy in a sense. Which, oh god, like the emotional complexity with all these guys is phenomenal. When you really break it, all the metaphysics of it all. I'm still blown away by basically something you spoke a little bit to, Tig. I love that the paralleling arc of a kind of this buddy adventure with joy and sadness, but of course the journey is actually shaped. Depending on how you look at it, which side, which side of the coin you come down on, which is actually shaped by Riley's growth and her maturing.
Yeah,
it's kind of a symbiotic process. They're both influencing each other, or is one influencing the other? It's the eloquent metaphor of the film that both kind of have this subtle effect on each other. Of course, Bing Bong, such fun and such a heart wrenching, but again, an inevitable fate. His character was always going to have this fate. That's the way it's supposed to go. But, oh god, it was glorious. It was just simply glorious. And the animation conceptually is as next level as it gets. It looks great. Again, like we have characters who aren't even like fully solid characters. Like they're giant, like effervescent little popping bubbles. If you ever freeze frame one of the characters. We have these fun set pieces in the command center idea. Like again, I love that. I just rewatched like the 10 minutes of before, like the first like 10 to 15 minutes of before it went on. I'm still blown away by it. The dinner table scene, of course, big staple. Like I think which kind of sells everybody on. You kind of get the concept. You get like the kind of the tumultuous emotional kind of statement is going to go into people's minds that are kind of going if they're arguing with each other, kind of go in the battle in each other's minds, which is great. It's such a relatable and engrossing film built around, again, this very mundane premise. Like girl moves from town to San Francisco. That's really it.
And the stakes just involve her not going to the shady town across the bridge from San Francisco.
Exactly. So again, such a scale such an internal scale to the piece. It's amazing in every sense of the word. Inside Out. It's
I'm still telling you, Dragon. I know Black Panther happened, but Bad things still happen in Oakland, Dragon. Don't let Black Panther fool you.
Again, every time we talk about Inside, invariably, again, he goes to the Oakland thing, and I'm thinking, like, look at how realistic those camera moves are. Look at look at how beautiful that animation is, and look at like you're in Riley's headspace.
And as a local, as a Bay Area local, I'm like, no, Riley really doesn't want to end up in Oakland, Dragon.
Yeah. Oh, you didn't mention your Bluthian thing. Did you want to get that in there?
My what now?
Yeah, your Bluthian thing. The fact it's a very Bluth-like movie.
Well, yeah, you just said it. It is very Bluthian for sure. Thank you for reminding me.
We reached our quota. I just wanted to make sure you got it.
Okay. Okay, number 8 for me, Dragon. Number 8, this is going to be the original Guardians of the Galaxy.
Come and get your love.
Okay, I think that Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is a more emotionally complex movie. But Guardians of the Galaxy, the original, is just, it set the standard, man. It really did. I mean, just the songs, the characters, the vibe. This is a classic from 2014. It really is. I feel like this is my favorite MCU movie. It's kind of solidified itself as my favorite MCU movie. And frankly, I feel like it's going to be kind of hard to top. Because even though Volume 2 had a lot of emotional maturity to it that I dug the hell out of, this one just has this innocence to it. It's got this vibe of a time gone by where we're never really going to get back to this with the MCU, Dragon. We're never really going to get back to a film that's this pure and this bent on pure storytelling and emotion and, I mean, I love everything about this film, especially from the point of view of the actual music and how the music kind of weaves its way through the narrative structure into the final segments. Of course, we've talked blue in the face about it. Dragon, I know one of your most famous moments is the "Take My Hand" moment, so I'll let you kind of guide everyone through that when we get there. I know this is coming up on your list as well. Of course, you've just got Rocket Raccoon, Drax the Destroyer, the original Groot. You've got John C. Reilly in the Nova Corps. You've got freaking, Yondu making his first appearance. You even got some Thanos action going on. Like, this movie really did kind of set the standard for the MCU in terms of just being a pure, like, what the hell? We could do anything now. We can do anything. This movie set the stage, set the standard. It blew the possibilities open. It even has a freaking Howard the Duck cameo at the end of it. I mean, how cool is that? That, to me, just cemented it. Like, I vividly remember seeing that Howard the Duck cameo and just being utterly gobsmacked about the possibilities of the MCU going forward and what that represented. Go ahead.
Can you believe we've had 3 Howard the Duck cameos in the MCU?
I know.
Technically 4 if you count the ride.
So, yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy, I mean, like I said, obviously the awesome mix of it all really is where the heart of the movie is. And I feel like because of that, a lot of movies are going to try and have soundtracks that connect with the character, but this movie is the original one, and I feel like it set a standard when it came to movie soundtracks. It set a standard when it came to new action adventure sci-fi romps. It is our generation Star Wars, I think even more so than the Avengers movies are, just in terms of the tone and the misfit band characters and everything. It's a classic, Dragon. It's a modern day classic. That's all I can say. All right. Number 7, Dragon, getting up there. Man, oh man.
Number 7, Toy Story 4 from 2019.
All right. I think this is a little high, but that's okay. I can respect it.
Favorites, all right? We went by favorites.
I know.
I'm sure an argument can be made for Inside Out or Coco. I'm just saying. Anyway.
That's what I'm saying, man.
But again,
I respect it being in the top 10, but
it's not best, though. That's the thing. All right. Toy Story 4. Okay, Toy Story 4. It was a toss up with this in Toy Story 3 for me. I had to really agonized over picking between the two of them because here's the thing: every time I keep going back to Toy Story 4, I fall in love with it a little bit more each time. I love more with each watch, and of course, then a little bit of recency thing too. Just, oh man, I can't get enough as I keep rewatching it. But Pixar. They got to remember the most remarkable thing about Toy Story 4 is Pixar pulled off probably the most impossible feat known to man in that they followed up Toy Story 3. And they didn't have it just as a cash in. It wasn't just they like, oh, what are they gonna do next? Toy Story 4? Literally made fun of it in a Muppet movie.
Well, we wait for Tom Hanks to make Toy Story 4.
That's what I'm saying. It's a fact that it was literally a punchline. It was literally a joke for years. It's like it's the common thing in Hollywood. It's like, when are you doing the next one? When are you doing the next one? We just why? But again, it's like it was always like the rumor of like, oh god, they finally did it. And I was like so sweating. I was sweating bullets to the very premiere of this thing. Oh god, and there's gonna be a movie. What are they thinking? Again, they succeeded and they followed Toy Story 3. I didn't know when they said it's gonna be it's basically we're not trying to top Toy Story 3. It's gonna be like kind of a romantic, it's gonna be a bit of a romantic comedy, and it's gonna be like, what does any of this mean? How are they gonna pull this off? But it wasn't a cash in. I mean, the opening scene, they had
Hang on, RC.
God. So the Operation Pull Toy of it all, man. Just like this, it sets up the tone of the movie perfectly. Where again, the fourth one, more of an epilogue state than kind of like a finale state. That is Toy Story 3. It's a mundane scale, mundane
This is
toy
what the
scale.
follow-up to Harry Potter should have been, Dragon. I'm kind of bitter that it's not.
So again, like the whole film is like we take a mundane scale, which is huge to a toy, but again, the emotional content is the key to everything. We have this full circle kind of masterwork of the opening and the ending, just kind of set up, and it's so beautiful. And again, like I'm on the edge of my seat, and they're bringing back the score is fantastic. Randy went outdid himself. He's bringing back the original themes, and it's like like basically practically Woody hanging on the moving van from the first movie in that opening scene with Slinky and like going for RC. It's kind of an inverse of that rescue, which is just brilliant. And the point being, there's so many things I love just in the action itself. Then we have like the reveal. Oh god, this is how Bo Peep got lost, and it's like, oh god, and she was given away, and it's a heart wrenching, beautiful scene where Woody has this giant moment of opportunity for change, and he sticks by his kid, which is I can go on about that scene. We only have so much time. My point is, so we have that opening. Then we have like the whole thing of Forky, where again we have this eating utensil as a way of addressing these big existential questions with a spork, and somehow it worked.
It worked so well that we got a Disney Plus spinoff of that very concept.
If you told me this years ago, I wouldn't believe you. I really wouldn't. It's next level illogical logic in the Toy Story world. That's what kind of the Forky of it all is, played wonderfully by Tony Hale. I think the gutsiest thing no one's talking about with this movie is such a gutsy choice to actually kind of question within our story. Like Woody's questioning his place. And Woody's questioning his place with Bonnie after the big choice that he made at the end of Toy Story 3. It's like, okay, in kind of an epilogue, we rarely see this. What if the ending wasn't that happy for Woody? What if kids go to phases? Kids go through phases, and maybe she grew out of the Western. Maybe she's like, she wants the girl cowboy. Why would she play with Woody? And it kind of takes the risk of maybe making Bonnie look a little unlikable. And she's not, though. Again, it's a perfect plan. It's a natural thing. And that's what I'm saying. Like, they took chances like these. And with wonderful new characters, as well as Bo Peep's return. We have really rich, emotional characters like Gabby, who perfectly complements the story of the movie and kind of the point of being a toy. And like Gabby, again, Christina Hendricks, I could go on. It's Toy Story sticking the landing with an epilogue 9 years later for the next generation. Again, it's like we have like 3 generations of Toy Story films all themselves practically.
Oh, God.
It's ultimately it's a great re-examination of everything you loved about the franchise, everything you loved about Toy Story. So it's fantastic, and it's phenomenal. I don't even need to mention the ending. I don't even need to, because it's that good already. I don't even need to mention.
Okay. All right, number 7 for me, Dragon. This is a movie that I will not shut up about, but honestly, a lot of people on the internet will not shut up about, and I think it is kind of quietly become the fan favorite film of 2019, honestly, for a lot of people. And yes, Dragon, that's 2019's The Lighthouse. all the way up at number 7. I don't know what to tell you, man.
I can't escape it either.
This movie's something special. It really is. I feel like this movie is a benchmark movie. The very fact that people are embracing this movie, right? The very fact that it is hard to escape, the very fact that this movie is becoming kind of a pop culture phenomenon is a testament to how compelling it is, Dragon, because it's a black and white as fuck movie. It's an experimental as fuck movie, right? Like, it's got almost no dialogue in it that people can actually understand. It's all old ye olde sea shanty dialogue. And yet somehow, some way, through all the crazy dialogue and all the German expressionism and all the sheer audacity of the filmmaking, this movie has risen to the top and people are just embracing it, and I love it. I love it. I love it. I am not one of those people who's like, oh no, The Lighthouse is my movie and now all these people are watching it and don't understand it. No. Here's the deal with The Lighthouse, Dragon. You can read this movie in almost any way you want to. It's kind of built like that. Like, to me, it's almost like more of a Rorschach test than a definitive answer to anything. The whole film is built on, like, okay, essentially the whole film is like these two lighthouse keepers going crazy. But what you see, what that craziness is you. There's a ton of context clues throughout the movie, and you have to figure it out. It's a trip. It's a wild ride. Of course, need I even mention Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson? They are just like in a league of their own. And I feel like one of the big memes of this movie is just how criminal it is that neither of them got nominated. So, yeah. And then just on top of that, like I said, just the movie is just rich and thick with symbolism and the atmosphere of everything. The fog, the fog horn, the sound design, the seagulls, the waves hitting the ocean, and just the weather deteriorating the lighthouse itself, the lighting on the lighthouse, just everything comes together. Every scene is a painting. Every single moment is an iconic, like, just, oh god, it's so artistically striking. It is so visually significant. I love this movie so much, Dragon. I don't know if I have no idea how you'll feel about it when you eventually watch it, but for me, it hit the right chord. This list kind of started out with Robert Eggers' The Witch in the 90s, and this is just like an ultimate culmination of Robert Eggers one film later, and this is like, as much as I like The Witch, this is just a step beyond The Witch in so many ways, and it's just such an artistic statement. It's a bold artistic statement. I do think it is the best horror movie of the decade, bar none. And yeah, I could just keep going. It's why'd you have to spill your beans, Dragon? All right, I'm done.
All right.
Okay, number 6.
Number 6, Avengers Endgame from 2019.
Dun, 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 dun. All right.
Dun, dun. All right. So this is what you call an epic. Truly, this is what you call, like, if you only have to reserve the term epic for like for a special occasion, this is the movie you do it in. This is like, in our lifetime, many people might cite, like, Lord of the Rings as the epic. You might cite the original Star Wars trilogy as an epic. Perfectly fine. To me, in terms of like the last decade, this to me was the epic, man. This is, if you only have one movie for like specifically to hang the shingle of an epic on, it would be this. Infinity War was the prologue. It was an excellent prologue, but it was the prologue, my friend.
I'll agree to disagree with you there.
Fair enough. Excellent movie, though. Don't get me wrong. But seriously, Avengers Endgame, it's like 3 movies in one, each better than the last, and it keeps ramping up with kind of like an hour per 3-act structure. One of the most satisfying movie experiences of the decade for me. We reference essentially every Marvel movie in some way, or we pay something off from the past 12 years of MCU films. Of course, the major one being kind of Cap and Tony's arcs. We have perfect conclusions to them, which I'll glow about momentarily. I mean, again, this movie you have you have the 5 year later time jump, you have time travel, you have like the best battle ever. It's kind of your 3 acts. I mean, just kind of breaking down some of this. I mean, again, Tony Stark, he through the course of this movie, and just by the time we see he's grown up into a better family man. He has children. You know, he he's a he's even more of a family man than his father was. We got kind of got closure with him after all this time. Again, Tony Stark's daddy issues are a thing of the past after this movie. And he's, of course, he saved the bigger universe that he became a part of, which I think is the best part about the arc. Again, like the movie starts with him being in space and being saved by Captain Marvel, which essentially through Nick Fury and everything is kind of a symbol of he was saved by the bigger universe he became a part of, and in turn by the end of the movie he saved that bigger universe, made the ultimate sacrifice. Captain America faced I got my big moment I wanted from the entire Infinity Saga in this movie. I got like Captain America facing down against Thanos. Bear in mind, we had like a whole giant army behind Thanos, but we got the moment, man. With that glove moment from Infinity War was all we're gonna get. It even better here. It's just Captain America. He's taking on Thanos. Everybody's knocked down for the count, and just it's Captain America. He's gonna face that whole army, and he's outnumbered. And then of course the best moment in the entire franchise happens. Hey, Cap. On your left, the portal's open. Oh, good. The portal's open. He has like all the backup, all the copious amounts of characters, which leads to the ultimate moment of Avengers Assemble. It took God knows how, roughly 22 movies. At least 20 movies from to finally say Avengers.
And at that moment, it makes it all worth it, man. It makes it all feel worth the wait.
It is. It's the most satisfying moment.
Thank God he didn't say it at the end of Age of Ultron.
That's what I'm saying. Like the most satisfying moment in all the Marvel movies is like that Avengers Assemble moment. Not only that, he's lifting Thor's hammer, which is awesome, man. He got the happy ending, of course. The happy ending means so much to him because it's basically Steve Rogers. He got the life that he left behind. The guy in the ice, he left that life behind. He gets to be Steve Rogers yet again, and Captain America, the icon, gets to live on within his friends. It's like everyone got a perfect ending. Everything got serviced, and so rarely does that happen. And of course, I love the detail when he's dancing with Peggy Carter at the end of the day. They're playing "It's Been a Long Time," which was in Winter Soldier, and the reason I love this is that Steve Rogers had that in his apartment. The last thing that we hear over the credits, and the song that he's dancing with Peggy Carter to, the idea is that Steve Rogers, he always missed that date. He missed that date to dance to go dancing with Peggy Carter and all that time. Mm-hmm. That's the song he wanted to dance to, and he finally got to dance to that song. So God bless beautiful. The Russos. God bless the Russo brothers. God bless Marcus and McFeely. Oh my goodness, just one of the most satisfying movie experiences of the decade for me. And Avengers Endgame. It's rarely in life do we get to sit through an epic or kind of see history made before our eyes. The highest grossing movie of all time, Avengers Endgame. Darn it.
All right. Okie dokie, Dragon. My number 6. Do you think I'm rushing or I'm dragging to get to this pick?
Oh, with a setup like that, you're dragging.
All right. My number 6 couldn't quite get it into the top 5, but yes, it is Whiplash from 2014. Man, oh man, talk about an epic of a movie in its own right. I feel like this movie might be a personal epic in all the right ways. It's just two titans kind of going up against each other, and I don't know, man. J.K. Simmons is what I love about this movie is how rewatchable it is for me. I can just from top to bottom, I can just put on this movie, from the moment that Miles Teller starts auditioning in front of J.K. Simmons at the start of the movie, and J.K. Simmons is kind of like lightly nudging him, you just know you're going to go on a ride. It's not going to take long for things to get out of hand. And once things get out of hand, they're just going to get more and more intense from there. I don't know. This is exactly I feel like this is a movie that's kind of like Uncut Gems, where it's almost designed to give you anxiety. It's designed to make you feel uncomfortable. But I feel like this movie is just a masterclass in that, because unlike with Uncut Gems, where you really don't give a shit about any of the people, even though it is a great masterclass in anxiety. You give a shit about both these people, ironically enough. Like, Miles Teller is very, very human in this movie, whereas Terrence Fletcher is a monster, but he is a charismatic monster, and you want to see more of him. And so the two of them together just form this toxic relationship with each other that is just a wild ride to witness, just a wild ride to kind of go on through the movie for. To see them, the two of them, kind of like trying to sabotage and one up each other through the end of the movie, and yet by the end of it, realizing that they need each other. Just a perfectly satisfying film, and it's a great lead-in to another Damien Chazelle film that is in my top 5. We'll get to that very soon. It's we'll see. I don't know how people are going to react to that one being so high on my list, but Whiplash, I do think, is just an ultimate sort of fan favorite, just perfect little movie. It's just a boost of adrenaline. It's infinitely rewatchable, I think. It's got one of the best performances and characters of the decade with J.K. Simmons as Terrence Fletcher. Miles Teller, in his own right, just absolutely shines as well. Yeah, man, just can't recommend it enough. Awesome movie. Awesome.
One could
movie.
say J.K. Simmons is playing a scary Terry in that film.
He totally is. God. All right. Top 5, baby. Top 5, Dragon.
Right.
You ready?
Okay, so Tiki, there is kind of a guiding principle within the top 5 here, kind of phrase that definitely comes into play with number 5 here. Okay, number 5 is Avengers from 2012. Tiki, the guiding credo is this: sometimes in life, my friend, you got to dance with the one that brought you.
I like that.
And that starts with Avengers here, where again it was a big toss between Avengers and Endgame. It was the top 5 spot. I mean, again, it was a heart wrenching choice. I gotta tell you, but again, you gotta dance with the one that brought you. This was the game changer. Okay, this is the beginning. This was the story. The Avengers. There's a wonderful simplicity to it, where the story is very well laid out, and as we unite all of our, as everybody unites to stop Loki and get the Tesseract back, stop Loki and the Tesseract, and we've built up the story and the connections and the arcs and all the parallels to the films that kind of led up to this. Which at this point were not many, but it was like we can count. Remember back in the time when you can count the Avengers movies on one hand? That was this time,
right,
ages ago. So anyway, of course, Cap and Iron Man, we have that kind of built in there, from the start there. Of course, their connection being, Howard Stark and the whole, kind of the arc reactor representing Tony Stark's heart, and Captain America being a good man, all that sort of stuff. The Hulk kind of has a connection to Captain America in the sense of the whole super soldier program. Hawkeye was in Thor. You get the picture, and then, of course, the big connecting point: Agent Phil Coulson, who's a Cap fan. He has my support. No, regardless, Agent Coulson though. Love Clark Gregg, and it was always kind of a fun touchstone. Of course, another big connect between Cap and Tony. We see the dynamics. And we see the friendships developing. Again, we definitely, is the first time we get to see Cap as the man out of time, which I feel is when he's at his most interesting, when he is the man out of time. Perfect. It's a perfect team up story. It's about the mission statement of the MCU. It's about. Basically, it's about, like, in times of crisis, these heroes that are all at their core, in some way, shape, or form, they're kind of New Yorkers at the end of the day, and they're all going to come together when the chips are down. They're all going to, come together and save, avenge all the bad stuff that's happened that someone's trying to inflict on somebody. We get a lot of real estate for the larger part of the MCU within the Battle of New York. I mean, one, we got a Netflix show out of it. We got Daredevil, so thanks for that. Big thing. Kingpin doesn't come to power without the Avengers movie, kids. So we have that with the Battle of New York, but seriously, I love that it's like the monolithic battle. We have the Battle of New York, and of course, by the time of Avengers Endgame, we have the Battle of Upstate New York. But seriously though, I love we have that Iron Man. He glimpses the bigger world. So yeah, basically it's like even if we never had gotten Endgame, you still would have had a lot service. You still would have gotten a lot of payoff within just the first Avengers movie. Iron Man does get the glimpse of the bigger world that he has been kind of thrust into ever since the first Iron Man movie. As he kind of saves the world, he goes for the sacrificial play, much like he does in Endgame. And again, it's kind of what I'm circling here is that even where we're at now, you go back to this movie, you're going to get an even bigger kick out of things in a post-Endgame world where the story kind of starts here. And again, a lot of the DNA, like where these characters go and where you want them to go, is here as well. I mean, I've always been a sucker for the ending of Avengers, where basically after all is said and done, Loki's about to basically being taken back to Asgard and everything. Fury is speaking to the World Security Council, or as you like to phrase them, the men
in the poorly lit rooms who secretly controlled the universe.
Bingo. And basically, Fury is given his speech. It's basically the promise speech, where basically it's like he's not forcing. He's learned his lesson from working with these guys. You know, I'm not going to try to control. I'm not going to try to manipulate them. I trust them. And basically saying, so you're not keeping Powers Booth again. God rest Powers Booth, who's passed in the past couple of years. But it's like Powers Booth saying like, so you just so like you just let him go. You're not tracking. You're not keeping any tabs on him. It says, is that a threat? I was like, no. It's a promise, basically a promise that the Avengers will come back when the time is right. They'll come back whenever the world needs them. And I mean, that's great. The Alan Silvestri score for the film, I love the Silvestri score so much. I think Guardians is a fantastic score, but I mean that's more of a soundtrack when you look at it that way. Silvestri, the Avengers theme, there's nothing knocking that theme ever. Hulk, of course, he's very much the MVP of the first Avengers movie. Hulk gets all the best moments, and they're wonderful. They're warranted. You have like Hulk smash, but importantly, you have like that's my secret, Cap. I'm always angry. Just that moment, like the awesome, like the Hulk in control, and like, oh, he's come so far. It's wonderful. I mean, this was the new blockbuster for the past decade. This was like the benchmark of the blockbusters. Like it reinvented everything we knew. Again, game changer in all senses of the word. Just great. Something we never saw in the superhero movie genre. It was wonderful, and now it's kind of the new benchmark, as it should be. Okay. Avengers, wonderful.
All right, so my number 5, Dragon, and as we're getting into my number 5, guess what? One franchise movie. Well, 2, technically. One's based on a book series, and the other is based on, you'll see. So my list is going to be almost entirely devoted to original films, so this will be kind of an interesting contrast here. So my number 5, Dragon, this is the movie that made me fall in love with Wes Anderson. I respected Wes Anderson before this movie. I fell in love with him after this movie. I still think, to me, it's my favorite Wes Anderson movie. It's certainly one of the most streamlined, and that's 2012's Moonrise Kingdom. Man, I love this movie, Dragon. I really do. I just talk about setting a time and a place. I love just kind of like that New England vibe that this movie gets with all the different small islands and the airmail and oh god, the 1960s aesthetic, the Boy Scouts. My dad absolutely adores this movie because he grew up right into this time period. He very much can relate to the Boy Scout stuff in the film. I just think top to bottom, the cast is like, it's never been better in a Wes Anderson movie. You've got Bill Murray as the sympathetic but pathetic father. You've got Bruce Willis as the oddly sympathetic police chief who Frances McDormand is having an affair with. Of course, the 2 kids in their own right are just very, very. They're both unknown actors, but they steal the show and they just define their characters of Susie and Sam so well. Edward Norton as the camp counselor is just absolutely lovable, and I think Scoutmaster Ward is one of his best roles he's ever had. I think. And just from top to bottom, we just have just the visual shoebox diorama style going on. Alexander Desplat's score just absolutely gets you into this world and into the. He's great. This is one of the best Desplat scores.
I should have mentioned too. He did the score for Shape of Water for the kids. He's
And this movie just gets you into the score. Like, I love how Alexander Desplat's music almost kind of breaks the fourth wall because it's the music that Susie listens to on a record player. So it's almost got kind of like a Guardians of the Galaxy vibe to it, although they acknowledge that it's like modern day music, or at least written it's written to be in the 60s, but it's kind of fictionalized 60s music. And man, because of that, just the whole thing just has such a great texture to it. I will say the love story is absolutely adorable and charming, and it just to me is what young love feels like at that age. It's never gonna work out. It's never actually gonna happen, but it feels so exciting and fleeting. And yeah, I could just go blue in the face about this one. Moonrise Kingdom, I just think is absolutely an impeccable masterwork by Wes Anderson. I think that other things that he's made in post this, like the Isle of Dogs or Grand Budapest Hotel, they've all kind of been maybe a little bit too ambitious for their own good. Whereas this one, I feel like, is a perfect level of ambition, and that's where I come down on it. That's why I love it so much, is that it is ambitious for the time, for pulling off the time period as well as it does. But it's such a simple human story. It's got so many lovable characters in it, even down to the memorable Boy Scouts themselves, like the guy who has the bandage, the kid who has the bandage on his eye, or the kid who gets mauled by the scissors, or just every character down the line. Jason Schwartzman pops up as like the camp counselor of the other camp, and he weds the two kids. Spoiler alert. So everyone down the line just has such a memorable role in this movie. I could just go on about it forever. I love the hell out of it, Dragon. I really do. Easily my favorite Wes Anderson film. Woo! All right. Number 4, Dragon.
Guardians of the Galaxy from 2014.
There you go. There you go. All right.
Some might say Star Wars for the next generation. Others might say, fun story of a band of misfits finding each other. Both would be correct. Both would be solid. I'm a huge. I love Star-Lord. I love Star-Lord purely because of this movie. Because Star-Lord is always to me just kind of like a baseline character before this. You never really kind of lit the world on fire until this movie, where with Chris Pratt brought to this role, and again everything we did with him. Again, the opening, my favorite scene. It's such weird to say. My favorite scene in Guardians of the Galaxy is the opening credits. Is that opening? The "Come and get your love." Oh god, I love it so much. It's I love this. I love that opening scene. I love even the thing, of course, kind of the prologue, but all with the origin of Star Lord, with like the "Take my hand, Peter" of it all. Where, it's such a that they have James Gunn magic in that opening, where again you have this kid listening to Sony Walkman as he can't bear to say goodbye to his mother, and again, it's kind of cheats himself out of his last moment with her, and again it's a beautiful love letter to sentimental storytelling. One could argue it's I think the thing that separates Guardians from a lot of other movies, I think it kind of like maybe kind of puts it over the Avengers in a sense, is that Guardians of the Galaxy, it might be in the MCU at its most creative. In a sense, I've always said to people, I wonder if, I've always posited, what if Avengers was made without the other films leading up to it? Again, I think Avengers would still clean up okay, but again, you wouldn't have everything without the films that led up to it. But again, it was always the thought, like, what if you had a team movie where we didn't have like the lead up to it? And Guardians is that movie. We don't have the lead up to it. We're introduced to these guys, and these are all so many times in so many movies you have like, whether it be a heist or some sort of genre of film, where you have like or a western, like a Magnificent Seven of sort, where you run the risk of characters that they're throwing at you, and you don't care about them too much, or maybe like you don't know these guys. Like, I don't know why I should care about this guy. Or like maybe this one actor's not swaying you. Guardians of the Galaxy, each character is so diametrically different and opposite from the other characters, such like an assortment, and they're all so interesting. You'd watch a movie about any one of them, and you get them all for the price of one, and it's fantastic. We get to see kind of the fun, irreverent look at the cosmic kind of space side of Marvel, with characters like Yondu and the Ravagers and the Collector even. Again, it's a fun taste of what's in store for like a Marvel without limits. We go to space. Again, now we have everything with Fox lumped in, everything with the Fantastic Four. So now that's truly limitless. But, the movie's got action, it's got laughs, but most importantly, the heart of the story is about these it's about these people making each other's lives better. That's what the heart of the story is. they're in this kind of and together that force is kind of something that saves the day in the end when they're going up against Ronan the Accuser. Like all of them literally holding hands together, all of them literally joining forces to take out Ronan the Accuser as they're kind of siphoning off the the Infinity Stone, the Power Stone. It's just impressive how Marvel is. They dug to the bottom of the barrel, and James Gold kind of spun it into pure gold. And again, just the emotional, the climax of it. Just I will sing the praises constantly and try to economize it here. Just again of that "Take My Hand, Peter" scene, where it's Peter in the thick of it, as it seems like he's about to die with the Power Stone before the Guardians save his bacon. It's like, "Take my hand, Peter," as Gamora's saying the Star-Lord, just reaching out to him, and he has that little flash where he hears this, and he flashes to his mom, and it's like, "Take my hand, Peter's mom." It's just, oh, again, this perfect, like in the storm of it all. It's this perfect shot, and it saves the day. We're the Guardians of the Galaxy. It all comes together so wonderfully, and of course the follow up being he opens the tape, and we learn the origin of the name Star-Lord. It's a beautiful. It's a beautiful film. It's everything you could add from the MCU. It's everything. It's all the possibilities of a Marvel. I always said it was like the perfect representation of what Marvel could do, but Marvel without like a name brand character, like a built-in institution of a Captain America or an Iron Man. It's like, or Spider-Man. It's like just reading like a random Marvel book, and that's what Guardians felt like on the big screen. It's kind of a random Marvel adventure that just sold you, and you want to know everything about these guys. Storytelling of the highest order, Guardians of the Galaxy. It's wonderful.
All right. Ooh, boy. Okay, man. Sorry, I just need to. That was a long speech there, Dragon. It's cool. Just want to make sure that I'm got my list in order. Okay, got it. All right, number 4 for me, Dragon. This is the one franchise movie that's on my top 5, but it's a franchise that I'm not even a fan of outside of this movie. I'm talking Mad Max Fury Road. I mean, holy shit. God damn this movie. If you want the epitome of cool, Dragon, just look at the flamethrower guitar guy. I mean, he is just the epitome of cool in movies. Not just that, but I just feel like this whole movie just has such a great epic kind of like Dragon. The way I describe this movie is that it's essentially the opening scene of Raiders of the Lost Ark for 90 minutes. It really is. It never ever lets up. It's one giant chase movie. You want to know the plot of the movie, Dragon? Are you sure you want to know?
I know the plot of the movie. Start the plane, Jock, for 90 minutes.
The plot of the movie is essentially they turn left. A truck turns left. And that's the conflict. Man, but just as the truck turns left, just so much crazy shit goes down. I absolutely adore Immortan Joe as a villain. I think he is easily one of the best villains of the decade. I love
Charlize Theron?
Nicholas Hoult. Hoult. Yeah, Nicholas Hoult is Nux. I feel like this is his best performance of the decade. I feel like everyone is going to remember him for "What a day! What a lovely, lovely day!" Or just the whole like, "I devote you to the glory of chrome," and just spray painting the mouths with the chrome and everything like that. It's such a dynamic movie, and just, I love how the rules of this universe are laid out to you visually. Nothing is exposited to you. You're just thrown into the ride. Of course, Furiosa is just the ultimate badass, like, kick-ass strong female character who doesn't really need to be spelled out why she's so badass. She just is. Max, I never really liked the character of Max himself, and so in this movie, I think it's very appropriate that it is just kind of Tom Hardy with a bunch of shit on his face yet again. I don't really feel like this is his movie. I feel like you could cut his name out of this movie and just call it Fury Road, and it would work just as well with him as a supporting character. But like I said, because I'm not a big Mad Max guy in general, that's totally fine for me. And I think all the Fury Road stuff in this movie, like, there's no reason why you need to watch Mad Max to get into this thing. There really isn't. If you know the very basic premise of Mad Max, which is just kind of like, all right, post-apocalypse in the Australian outback. Got it. That's all you need to know, because Fury Road just takes you on a journey, on a ride. It is just so propulsive. I mentioned the propulsive energy, and this movie is the most propulsive energy out of any movie in the past decade, I would say. Just the stunts, the choreography, the lack of CGI except when it's absolutely necessary. Everything just boils down together to create just a perfect cinematic experience. It is the white knuckle action thrill ride of the decade. I'm not a big action guy. John Wick movies don't really have much of a place on my list, except for the first one, out of respect, much lower on it. But this just, man, this is my action movie, man. It really is. This is the action movie that I can just turn on over and over and over, live in the world, live in the cool factor, live in just the detail, and just how the religion operates, and how Immortan Joe does his business. And it's all there. It's all within the 100 minutes of storytelling that is present here. Visually, it's just a trip. And I just, George Miller needs to do another one, man. I can't wait to see what George Miller does next, no matter what it is. It could be Babe 3 in the City, and I'll be fine.
Let's see George Miller's Justice League movie after all. Let's bring that back.
That's what I'm saying, man. I'd be totally down.
Give me a Ham in the Bat costume already, would you? Even if it's not John Hamm, give me Army Hammer. I love.
Man, we're getting in. Go ahead.
Here's the thing. I love to imagine Tom Hardy's mother watching his movies and just being, "Well, Tom, it's a nice movie, but why hide your lovely face?"
So Tom Hardy's mother is Irish in your mind?
Okay, well, look, Tom, why hide your lovely face?
All right, Jesus. You're embarrassing me in front of her. Okay, Dragon.
Tom Hardy's mom? I'm embarrassing in front of Tom Hardy's mom. Well, there you go. Okay, anyway.
Let's just move on. Number 3, Dragon. Number 3.
Number 3?
Yeah.
I swear to God, I did not intend that this was not intentional, but Toy Story 3 from 2010 as the number 3. So, again, Tiki, sometimes you got to dance with one another. Toy Story 3. All right, so this is the return of the oldest touchstone of my past, second to Batman the Animated Series. So it absolutely is going to be in the top tier. Toy Story 3, we take Toy Story to its logical conclusion. Even we refurbish kind of ideas from the original concept. Again, like going like toys ended up in daycare. Again, we take some of the Lotso, for example. We take a lot of deleted ideas from the genesis of Toy Story. We purposed it into the third movie, and it worked out tremendously. I can't. We continue the track that we had at the end of Toy Story 2, which is really profound. The idea of kind of the perennial toy figures, kind of watching their kids grow up and being in kind of the uncertain future they face. And the basic Toy Story 3 is that day has come, folks. It's been many years, so we're not going to toy around here. The day is here. So they always prepared for this, and they watched them grow up. But it's like, what now? So this is for the crowd that grew up with Toy Story, and then the parents who grew up with them as well. Again, it's kind of like this, kind of grew up with them. It's kind of like the end of an era for in many senses, and the ending is felt by all. It's a great full circle story. Definitely, it's basically it's got great full circle storytelling with the opening. Again, how we basically kind of set up the incinerator scene at the very start, where again it's like through giant nuclear bombs of monkeys, mind you. But again, we kind of set up like our main hero toys in peril. We use the same kind of moment of score there. It's they're basically looking at a big fiery kind of circle. Again, which of course the incinerator scene. So that thing everybody talks about, Toy Story 3. It is the most tense scene in animated history. In in animation history, I would argue, it's one of the most tense scenes you're ever going to see. I mean, like the only thing that could possibly rival it might be that scene from The Brave Little Toaster, but still a little worse than that here. Again, like fiery emulation of beloved characters that everyone and their grandmother loves. This is in this film we have a great villain, we have an excellent villain in Lotso. Again, the origin of Lotso and like why he turned, how things turned so south. And I mean, oh my god, just like
We're
seeing he
just
went through all
bad
this.
toys waiting to be thrown away.
She replaced us. Like, oh god, it's like seriously, that scene. It's so poetic and so oh god, it's so Shakespearean. Just what's happening in that flashback.
Uh-huh.
And again, of course, Lotso takes part in what I would call, in the tomes of Pixar history, the ultimate matchstick moment. The most important matchstick moment of like, you think he's gonna push the button. He's gonna push the button. Where's your kid now, Sheriff? What, Lotso? No! It's like, oh god, he's doomed them all. What? So, the animation we updated from good stock in the first place. We could have used the same animation software for Toy Story 2. I'm sure it would have been fun, but Pixar's come along in many years, and it's gotten even better, even more perfect, even more photorealistic. It's astonishing. We even added kind of this new infusion of the playtime POV, where we see kind of what basically we saw what Andy was kind of picturing in his mind all those years ago. The whole this is my force field eating dinosaur, like all that sort of stuff. Oh god, it's tremendous, so imaginative. Film. There's so many good things about Toy Story 3. We're going to be here all day. Just the point being, it was everything you could have hoped it was going to be, but it all boils down to So Long, Partner, and the Clouds, man. The ultimate full circle ending you're ever going to have, and I'd make a case for it being one of the best endings in the decade, no question for me. I mean, probably one of the best endings to a film that we've had in the past 10 years. I mean, it truly is just something. Again, it started off the decade, too. It's got to set the benchmark. Okay, let's see you top that. All right. And of course, Logan did give it a good shot. That's what I'm saying. There are contenders. Don't get me wrong. But I'm just saying that.
Toy Story 4 as well.
I know, Toy Story 4 as well. That's what I'm saying. But still, just like that, the comfort after, like, the goodbye to Andy and like, all the kind of the last goodbyes to all the toys and just that So Long, Partner, as we pan to those old familiar clouds, how it all started. Just a beautiful testament to all the big touchstone in my life with the Toy Story 3, and just kind of seeing the old gang come back in a big way that meant something and was so well handled.
Right. Oh, my number 3 is a divisive little movie, Dragon, one that I personally love, but about half the population does not. No holds barred. I don't care. I'm in love with La La Land. I have loved it from the moment I first saw it. I loved it from the moment I first saw the trailers and fell in love with the aesthetic and fell in love with the songs. La La Land to me is like the ultimate modern movie musical, and it is number 3 on my list from 2017. Of course, you got Emma Stone and my boy Ryan Gosling. Man, just what I love about this movie is that it's a deconstruction of musicals while being an epic musical in its own right. There's a reason why it doesn't have that many songs. It's because life itself, there's not many moments of inspiration and bursting out into song, but they do happen, and that's what La La Land represents. La La Land represents, especially early on in a relationship, that kind of elated feeling that you do get, and it's represented through amazing songs and amazing choreography and just breathtaking cinematography and breathtaking music and just all the stuff here. Like, I think the planetarium scene is iconic. I think the What a Waste of a Lovely Night scene is iconic. I think Another Day of Sun is iconic. I think the party scene is iconic. I mean, just down the line, every single musical number, every single striking musical moment in this whole film is just top to bottom. It's iconic. It's pure cinema. But then you get to the real world stuff. And while I've seen people criticize the real world stuff, I've seen people criticize the second act of this movie. And I do very much feel like this isn't a 3-act movie. It is a 2-act movie, a part 1 and a part 2. The second part of this movie is very real world. I feel like it's exactly what happens in these love stories. It's what happens after the happily ever after. And Man, Dragon, you know that the ending of this movie gets me every single time. That montage, followed by that look of acknowledgement. The look of acknowledgement, oh my god. That mixed with Ryan Gosling just being very content but melancholy at the same time at the end, and just leading his band on into the night, and then just the classic Hollywood "The End" title card. Just, oh man, I'm sorry if I spoiled the ending there, but just I feel like this movie sticks to landing for the ending in a way that not a lot of other movies really do. I feel like it tells you everything you need to know about where these characters end up in life versus where they wanted to end up in life. I feel like it tells you everything about how they impacted each other in the brief time they had together. It's devastating. It's remarkable. It's just an emotional epic of a climax. And by the end in this film, by the point of it, we've not really gotten a musical number in a while, but that montage just brings everything home, brings everything together. And yeah, La La Land is just to me a quintessential American movie of the 2010s. Just like, this is American art right here. This is American pop art. It could not be made any other place except for this country. I love just how optimistic it is with that kind of twinge of melancholy at the same time. It is a towering achievement as far as I'm concerned. Just an absolute towering achievement. I love it to death. All right. Okay, Dragon, number 2. Oh boy.
That is where we get into the big love section, folks. Okay, so all right, number 2 for me is a big one. Again, it was a big toss-up between 2 and 1, but I kind of knew where these are going to end up. But number 2 for me, Captain America: The Winter Soldier from 2014.
Wow, okay. I've got to admit, I'm surprised. I knew what your top 2 would be, but I'm surprised this isn't your number 1.
Hey,
All
I love
right.
it to pieces, though. Again, very interchangeable, these top 2. I will say that.
I'm
too.
sure it is. I'm sure it is. Yeah.
Again, favorite being the thing. I mean, I think if I'm going best, I mean, Winter Soldier might be the number 1, but again, we're going favoritism here. So, point being, I still love this one. Oh God, basically, I love as much as everything you said about La La Land, but even more so. Okay, so easily, Captain America: Winter Soldier, my favorite MCU film.
You mean Captain America Winter Soldier has epic sweeping musical numbers that take you off your feet?
Well, it does have great music, though.
I would say the first movie's more in line with that. Like, yeah, it's got the Star Spangled Man
You're
with
right.
the plan.
Okay, fine. Anyway.
Sorry.
Anyway, so Winter Soldier, my favorite MCU film, no question. Not even a moment's hesitation. Basically, the reason for this, the reason this is absolutely so high on the list. This is when I fell in love. This is when I fell head over heels for Captain America. Avengers. I liked First Avenger. I did. And I still, at the time, I liked Avenger. Of course, the third act kind of left a bad taste in the mouth, but obviously it ends fantastically too, with him waking up in Times Square. The point being, it was a solid film, and I liked it. And it was like, oh, okay, this is great. And the whole Star Spangled Man, all that was great. And then Avengers was starting to really warm me up to Cap. Oh man, I'm really digging this Captain America character, man. Yeah. Of course, I basically. For Captain America, just the character he was always the institution. He was apple pies, Americana. You know, he's very much like everybody likes Cap. He's the guy in the Avengers. I knew him in a team capacity. He's the guy who shouts the catchphrase. He's the one who says "Avengers Assemble," and he's the Star Spangled guy. It's pretty much like if you didn't like Cap, you're practically un-American in a sense. You know, it's like he was the guy who got out of wartime, punch Hitler in the jaw. That's pretty much Cap's claim to fame. And the movies really won me over. My favorite version of Captain America is the movie version. Certainly, it's what made me a Cap fan. And this film is primarily the reason for it. This is where I became completely engrossed in the guys. Like, okay, Iron Man is my favorite Avenger. No longer the case. No longer the case. We basically in this movie we put Cap in kind of this political espionage thriller to complement the Man Out of Time story, which is brilliant. And we kind of parallel the continuing arc of basically the Man Out of Time story, which is Captain America eventually questioning authority like he did in the comics, basically during kind of the Watergate times, which we then did again with Civil War in the comics. So we kind of were doing that here, and we kind of do it again in Civil War. where he kind of has a kind of a disillusionment with kind of the people he just blindly put his trust into, like he would in the '40s. But again, times have changed, and he kind of learns that the hard way. Cap is absolutely put through the ringer this movie. He gets into this whole Shield being Hydra conspiracy. We see what Hydra's answer to the super soldier was, which basically the best thing they could muster after all the years of trial and error with creating their own version of the super soldier formula was the Winter Soldier. Now, in the comics, I was always a naysayer for this whole idea of the Winter Soldier, the idea and the Red Hood, the idea of don't bring back the sidekick, just leave him dead. It was a dramatic story. Don't bring him back. What are you, stupid? But this film absolutely sold me. I don't know what I was thinking all these years. They brought back the Winter Soldier, and it was awesome. They sold me so much on basically the idea of kind of remind you of the personal stakes. It wasn't just kind of the classic comic books retconning. We can't just leave anyone dead. We always got to bring them back. In this case, it's we brought him back, but imagine the ramifications of bringing somebody back. If you saw your friend but as a bad guy who's essentially a mass murderer, essentially the Darth Vader of the MCU, practically. Again, in this movie, he's pretty much Darth Vader. He's the killing machine that, again, has a soul underneath it once you kind of take off the mask and you kind of break through to him. So, this movie already has me at the start with, it's already getting to me with, the whole on your left thing, with, when he meets his new buddy, Falcon. It's the start of that friendship, on your left. Oh, come on! It's wonderful. And it improves from there. You have these artful action sequences. You have these fantastic musical choices, like Trouble Man, for example. Trouble Man is such a perfect sequence, and just kind of the perfect kind of getting us to the end too, just Trouble Man. After everything Cat's been through, it's kind of a relaxing transition, and kind of seeing justice done feels perfectly '70s for the vibe of this thing. Feels like it was very much kind of like a thriller, political thriller from the '70s. We get the best Nick Fury stuff in this movie. This is the best Nick Fury we've gotten in all the Marvel movies. The conversation that Cap has with Nick Fury all throughout, dialogue they have, the banter that he has with Black Widow, Black Widow. Again, it's kind of basically this is the Iron Man 2 is kind of the anti-Winter Soldier when you really think about it, because we have Black Widow forced into a movie. Only in this case, she perfectly fits the film, the whole espionage nature of it all. And she has chemistry with Cap, and it's not just we need to set up Black Widow for the future. Throw her in the Iron Man movie. Cap, he's put through the ringer. He's losing his faith in the system. Armin Zola, who comes back in an awesome way, he basically kind of breaks the news that, hey, I turned your buddy into a mass murderer, and essentially your sacrifice was for nothing. The whole you missing your date and everything was for nothing. Hydra survived anyway, stronger and ever, built in the government. Haha. And and again, it's now as your friend mass murderer, you're probably going to have to put him down. So good luck with that one, buddy. It all comes to Act 3, man. Act 3, it just keeps getting better and better as it goes on. Act 3 is where I need to break out the inside-out tissues. Just, my God. Oh, jeez. Act 3 is just built up so perfectly in how we build it up so well with the stakes, both the global stakes and the personal stakes. Really, the whole world's going to basically, we're going to kill all the bright minds and all the heroes of the world with this Project Insight thing. But also, to save the day, he might have to kill his buddy here. And I still get weepy every time I watch this movie. It's the power of this movie. Every time I get so darn weepy. Every time we build to the climax, or after he saved the day, Cap's willing to go down with the ship, but he's not going to leave until he makes the effort to save Bucky. And he just, whenever he says, finish your mission, then, your name is James Buchanan Barnes. Stop it, it's not my name. And he basically, Cap's just taking all these hits. He's not fighting back. He says, well, then finish it. You are my mission. Well, then finish it, because I'm with you till the end of the line. Oh, God, it makes me so... God, I'm with you till the end of the line. I literally have a shirt that says I wore at Comic-Con last year. With it till the end of the line. He saves the day, but I love that Captain America, he saves the day, and with his last non-violent act, where again, he reaches his friend with his last act. He saves his friend in a sense. He falls in the water as it's going down to the Triskelion and everything, and then the Potomac. His friend, Captain America returns to the water that spawned him in a sense. Only it's not frozen ice, but essentially it's the world is too much. The world, the man from out of time goes back to the time that spawned him in a sense. He just can't take the world anymore because everything's just been thrown at him in this movie. He just can't take it anymore, and yet his friend, his friend saved him. He's saved by the Winter Soldier, and in some small way, his faith is restored. And they have that beautiful money shot we kind of have here. It's a bit small, folks, but it's there. The perfect shot of the movie. We have, it's the Winter Soldier having saved his friend, the smoke in the background, him just, walking off, just kind of contemplating, like, again, like he's somehow back. He's not all the way back, but again, like he's in there. And just, like the movie's called Winter Soldier, not just for the fact that Bucky is called the Winter Soldier. It's not the Winter Soldier's movie. It's the fact that Cap is in the Winter Soldier is an actual term where soldiers who fight the longest, hardest, coldest battles. They endure the winter, and Cappy, he endured the harshest winter in this movie, and he was rewarded, for his service in a sense and in a way. And by the end of it, it was just, oh god, it's one of the most beautiful Marvel movies I've ever seen. I love it so much. I owe so much to this movie. No matter what Marvel does, even after Endgame, I'm still not knocking this one down a peg. Nothing's ever going to make me knock down Winter Soldier. Never.
All right. Okay, number 2 for me, Dragon. These two, very interchangeable. One, I think, is like a masterclass of drama. One is a masterclass of comedy and editing. Oh, man. At the end of the day, what it came down to is I feel like there's a more diverse cast of characters in my number 1, whereas, admittedly, my number 2, though I've often cited it as one of my favorite movies of all time, is a bunch of rich white dudes with rich white dude problems. But still, for my number 2 from 2010, I think The Social Network is about the best rich white dude problems movie ever.
I'm going to raise your shock with my own shock. I'm amazed this isn't your number 1.
This is not my number 1, Dragon. It's not my number 1. Like I said, it ultimately came down to the fact that my number 1 has a far better cast of characters in it, I think. And I've grown to just really, really appreciate my number 1 all the more over the years. With that being said, I mean, The Social Network kicks all kinds of ass, man. It really does. It's a perfect movie. It's fundamentally perfect. I mean, if not for the fact that, unfortunately, some people complain about the movie because of the lack of female characters, which were there were frankly no real interesting female characters around during the time of this movie anyways, the true story, then, I mean, whatever. This movie, just top to bottom, everything about it just works so well. The friendship between Jesse Eisenberg and Andrew Garfield is palatable, absolutely palatable. You do not want these two to break off from one another. You do not want to see anything bad happen with this friendship, but you know it will, and that's the Shakespearean tragedy of the whole thing. Justin Timberlake as Sean Parker, I think, is one of the most understated villains of this whole decade in film, just because he, make no mistake, is the villain of this movie, and he comes in with such a charisma that you almost don't even realize what he's doing to the story at first because you're so on his side at first. And let's see, I mean, the Winklevoss twins are, I think, probably the heart and soul of the movie. Like, you empathize with them more than you empathize with Zuckerberg, and I feel like that's a big magic trick that the movie pulls. Speaking of magic tricks, I love the visual effects of the Winklevoss twins themselves. I feel like it's one of the more subtle and effective visual effects we've gotten in a mainstream movie this whole decade. Because we're twins. There's 2 of me. I mean, Jesus Christ, just everything about this film, just the script, the direction from David Fincher, of course, the Aaron Sorkin walk and talk dialogue, just propulsive energy. I keep mentioning propulsive energy. This one has it in spades. I love the score from Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, and I feel like this really kind of set the stage for their career going forward into the next decade. And what do you know, as we come into 2020, these two, after The Social Network was their first score, these two really kind of have hit home as like one of the big players in the movie score industry right now. So just Jesus Christ, everything about this movie just fires so hard. The human level is off the charts, man. That moment where Andrew Garfield just freaking throws the computer out of Jesse Eisenberg's lap and just yells at him, and just everything about Sean Parker and Sean Parker's comeuppance, and just it's all so poetic, so beautiful, so just absolutely Shakespearean by its very nature, that it's just a hell of a movie, man. It really is. It's just human drama at its absolute finest. And I feel like as the years go on, this movie's just going to get more and more and more relevant. I've often struggled to sell this movie to people just based on the thing that it is the Facebook movie. But you know what? If you can take away the Facebook movie of it all for a second, it's just a damn compelling human movie. And I love the title of The Social Network because it illustrates, like Zuckerberg. I mean, of course, this is a very baseline interpretation, but Zuckerberg makes the social network to basically improve his social standing. But at the end of the day, while he improves his status, he doesn't improve his social situation. And we see that while he's desperately trying to click refresh at the end of the movie. Just a very poetic ending comeuppance. So, yeah, just overall, this is our time. The Social Network represents our time. It's an absolute fucking shame, travesty even, that The King's Speech won over this for Best Picture. But you know what? It fought the good fight, and I think everyone agrees that this one really is, like, if not the best movie of the decade, at the very least one of the best movies of the 2010s, and one of the very top movies of the year 2010. All right, Dragon, tell us about your little dream wish fulfillment that came true.
All right, number one for me, as you probably guessed, for the process of elimination, not just assumption already from the start. Basically, it was a 50-50 shot between Winter Soldier and this movie, and you might have been right. Deadpool from 2016. Now, folks, while it is true we did essentially like a 3-hour podcast on Winter Soldier, which, again, more than I could do in my sleep as well. Deadpool, though, it's something even more. Again, we're talking about favoritism. We're talking about never in my life have I been more invested in a film than Deadpool. Basically, like for the forthcoming release of a film, I've been with this thing from practically since the inception. For basically 7 out of the 11 years it was in development. So, all right. So Deadpool, again, it was like the best theater experience I've ever had because, again, of that investment that I had. Because way back when, of course, I was there during the whole X-Men origins of it all. My love of Deadpool started with Hulk versus Wolverine, which I was kind of introduced to the character. Again, it's like, oh yeah, they're doing this little Wolverine movie, and they're kind of putting out some Wolverine stuff. So I kind of watched that. This Deadpool character really captures my imagination. I found it. Hey boy, Deadpool's going to be in that X-Men Origins movie in some way, shape, or form. And Ryan Reynolds is playing. What a match! What could go wrong? First 20 minutes, I like that movie. Rest, dumpster fire. Point being, what we do at Deadpool, that movie's unforgivable. But the word is with Ryan Reynolds, even himself being unhappy with that movie, securely we're going to do a spin-off movie for Deadpool, and we're going to get it right. Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick, the Zombieland guys, they're working on the movie. The script kind of finds itself online. I kind of print it out. I take a peek at it. And basically kind of make a process. Okay, this thing's probably going to be made in like 2012, so I'm gonna like read it. I'm gonna read it once, so I don't get too spoiled on things. Because I don't. Of course, I read it once. Then 7 years went by, and it finally happens. So kind of more 7 than the 2 years I was expecting there. So I was vested in all the aspects of production. At the very infamous test footage that got leaked, and of course essentially got the movie made once it was leaked at around the time of a certain Comic-Con that finally got the wheels of progress and movement. I'm so grateful that happened. Deadpool is the most authentic might be the most authentic comic book movie ever made, alongside potentially the Donner Superman. That's big words. I know that's a big bold statement, but it's true. In terms of character,
it is authentic in terms of just like how accurate it is to the character itself. So I won't fight you on that.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, it's basically the core group of the core group of Tim Miller, Ryan Reynolds, Reese and Paul Wernick, they made this magic happen. Deadpool, of course, very much. This is Deadpool's irreverent take on the origin story and the revenge film formula through the guise of a superhero movie, where we have so many great moments where basically kind of spice things up so well throughout the course of this film. My favorite elements of the movie there are two scenes always stick out to me when I think of the first Deadpool movie. First, Where's Francis? The montage of Where's Francis, which is just so much fun. Where's Francis? Again, not only is it just Deadpool's like killing a whole bunch of people trying to get answers about where his hated enemy is, hence the revenge movie at all. We make it fun. We're gonna have the Deadpool rap, which is kind of like a fun thing. We're on YouTube. Somebody did like a Deadpool rap, so they got those guys to actually do a movie version of it, which is really cool. And again, it's basically Deadpool rewarding the fans, which is really nice. What's even better is kind of get the evolution of the costume, which I love. And again, like a lot of movies is so faithful to the comics, it's ridiculous. So many subtle nods, so many kind of overall tone nods to what Deadpool does in the comics. The personal moment for me that really everything just crystallized so perfectly. So far, we were on a really, really good track with Deadpool. Everything just like aesthetically, everything's fantastic. Everything's fun. It's like, okay, I'm already satisfied. This is a Deadpool movie. But the moment that communicated to me that Ryan Reynolds, not only was he just like the fun, like the great pick for Deadpool, he was the only man who could play Deadpool. Was that there was a moment where basically Deadpool without the mask on, because again, we could have just very easily just put Deadpool in the mask in every situation, would have had kind of a little bit of a boost in awesome every scene if you really wanted to look at it that way. Because the costume is just ridiculously awesome. The mask is, well, the way we animate the mask, but the eyes on the mask. There's a moment where we see him outside the costume and just with all the scarred up makeup and horribly disfigured underneath all that sort of stuff, and he's going to meet up with Vanessa, and he's about to walk up to her, and he's reminiscing. But every time I see her, it's like the first time, especially from this angle. He's about to see her, and he wants to talk to her, wants to basically kind of reconnect with her and warn her something bad's coming for her. And he wants to reconnect with her so badly, but he just can't. And he misses her just by that much. And that moment, that proved to me, okay, this movie gets the character. It's not just like the fun of, oh, look, wacky guy in a mask. It's not just the gimmick of Deadpool, like, oh, the quippy guy who looks a little bit like Spider-Man. It's not that. Not that at all. It's like Ryan Reynolds, he gets the character. Like he always connected with the character because they name dropped Ryan Reynolds in one of the comics. That always kind of drew him to the thing. But it's like he gets the role, man. He gets all the subtleties of it. We have so many fun aspects that are realized, like Dupinder. Again, I read that years ago, and I always remember that Dupinder character. I loved it so much. The idea Deadpool comes across kind of these ancillary characters. He has a fun dynamic with Dupinder being the perfect example of that. This whole not the Daffodil Daydream, the girl. This whole he's invested in Dupinder's love life, which is hysterical. There's a fun payoff there with the whole Bantu affair. We have Blind Al, really well realized. The workshop, which is pure Deadpool comic stuff right there in the origin. Ajax, again, being a whole thing. We just like everything's just so well realized, and very much like Donner Superman. I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up that the love story is what makes or breaks the movie. And basically, because of the love story between Vanessa and Deadpool, Miranda Baccarin is so good in this movie with Ryan Reynolds. You invest in Deadpool beyond the gimmick because of that love story, because of the scene I mentioned earlier. It's like we're getting so much accomplished in this movie because one, you're selling people on Deadpool to kind of the general audience. You throw in kind of X-Men right off the page with Colossus and Megasonic Teenage Warhead. Get the Blackbirds. It's fantastic. Had the pleasure of meeting Stefan Kapicic, even meeting Colossus the man himself. Just kind of a little touchstone. Just the stars just kind of aligned for me with this movie, to say the least. It's got great action. It's got fun violence. It's kind of overall. It's fun. It's everything I could have hoped for and more. I mean, never in a million years would I imagine not only Deadpool getting a movie, but actually getting a happy ending in some sense of the word. Because Deadpool just being such the cursed character that we saw in the sequel, just he got a happy ending after all the guff that he took from X-Men Origins. It was so unexpected, such a rewarding experience. For me, whenever I'm feeling low, I always go to like three movies. For me, it's always like it's Mask of the Phantasm, Mask of the Phantasm, the series. In the case of Daredevil, I'm really in a low place. I go to Daredevil. The series is kind of a pick me. Okay, I'm going to bring out the big guns. Like I need 13 episodes to pick me up. Mask of the Phantasm or Deadpool. Deadpool being just kind of like the king. Okay, I need what's a handy pick me up. I got if a day's not going my way. Deadpool. It's gonna make me happy. It's gonna bring back all the joy I felt cinematically, and just kind of seeing a character that I really grew to love, and just kind of through that Hulk versus short years and years ago, and just kind of seeing everything I ever wished for just kind of like accomplished before my eyes, and just like the gold at the end of the rainbow was something. It was a magical experience I can never undo. And it's like the one thing it has over Winter Soldier, just being so invested in, then kind of surprised and just kind of engrossed in Winter Soldier that I was. Deadpool is, it's something else. It's something deep. It's something personal. It's just, it's in my blood.
Okay. All right. So my number one, yeah, I don't think that there's going to be a movie to come along for quite a while that's going to be as much of just a big fan favorite cult classic that I can just watch over and over and over again. I know this movie like the back of my hand. I think that every single solitary performance in this movie, from the evil exes to the main characters, just knock it out of the park. And of course, it's all anchored by the impeccable direction of one Edgar Wright in his best directed movie ever. I'm talking Scott Pilgrim versus the World. Scott Pilgrim versus the World is my number one favorite film of the 2010s. I think this film just has everything. It's got just it's got, oh man, I mean, let's just go down the line here. Just obviously the visual style of this film has not yet been replicated. It was a game changer. I feel like this film does have the best look of any video game style movie ever. It absolutely encapsulates what it's like to be inside of a video game and that heightened world, and just all the things that go with it. But I mean, the video games and the references, that's just the aesthetic, man. Like, on top of all that, this movie has a powerful story about growing up and accepting your responsibility and accepting your place in the world, and like ceasing to be such a little selfish asshole in the case of Scott Pilgrim. And I do love how the character of Scott Pilgrim does go through this arc of, being kind of a selfish a-hole to sort of a good dude by the end of the film. And I think that I don't know, there's all these little intricacies to the movie that just go along with it. Of course, we have just factions of great characters. I mean, I don't even know where you want me to start. You got
Chris Evans, you got Brandon Routh, you got Mae Whitman, you got an all-star lineup of that.
That's what I'm saying. That's one faction. That's the Evil X faction, and you're right, they are fantastic. But by the same time, you've got the Schwartz. Yeah, you've got the Sex Bob-ombs with Steven Stills and Kim Pine and even young Neil, who really steal the show. But then you have Wallace Wells, the gay roommate, played by Macaulay Culkin's older brother. You have you have Aubrey Plaza. You have you have Anna Kendrick as Scott Pilgrim's sister. I mean, just you have Brie Larson in there. Just everything, man. This cast is so star-studded. And then, like I said, it adapts the comic book in a way where Dragon, you say that Deadpool is the most pure comic book adaptation ever. I would argue. Go ahead.
Basically, it's so fun that we both have kind of these irreverent, kind of big, like, off-the-page comic book movies as our number one.
I would argue that Scott Pilgrim does it even more off the page, especially with the first book. Now, the thing with the Scott Pilgrim movie is that it takes a book apiece for the Evil X's to be defeated. The Scott Pilgrim movie kind of takes care of them all in one swoop. So by the same token, it is an adaptation. You've got to get that kind of like that frantic story out there, and you've got to cover a lot of ground. You've got to cover the ground of 7 books within like a 90-minute movie. And it does so. It does so by just having the essence of the characters and the essence of the world and the essence of the style just all out there for all to see. As I was saying, Dragon, I think just the female cast in this movie utterly kicks ass, from Knives Chow to Kim Pine to Ramona Flowers, to Julie Powers. Just they all are just awesome characters, just top to bottom. And that is one of the things I feel like this movie has going for it over The Social Network, is each and every character in this thing. And I even love characters like Como, who are, Como's kind of like the guy in the background of the party who knows everyone. There's just there's all these different characters, all these different combinations of relationships existing within this movie. Of course, you have young Neil dating Knives Chow for a small period of time, and then oh god, coming to her rescue, he knocked the highlights out of her hair. And then like you said, Brandon Ralph is
I love
said
Brandon Ralph,
perpetrator.
the vegan thing.
The vegan police defeat of Brandon Ralph. One of my favorite details is when the vegan police are running are kind of skipping back from arresting Brandon Ralph, and they just give this epic slow motion yeah, high five. Of course, Chris Evans and his army of stunt doubles.
Stunted to death.
Yep. Such a groundbreaking, game-changing, fun movie that you can just turn on and just get something out of, and its heart is absolutely in the right place. There's nothing morally reprehensible about this one. You can just sit on, watch it, be in a good frame of mind, be transported to another world with the video game elements, and still have time to appreciate the awesome characters along the way. So that is why Scott Pilgrim versus the World is my top #1 favorite film of the decade. All right. Woo! And Dragon, I really don't have the energy to list out all 100, my friend. I really don't.
We weren't supposed to do that, were we?
No, we weren't. But we can just list up the top 20.
Yeah, that's what I was preparing to do. Also, we need to throw a little ambiance up there right now.
Ambiance?
Yeah, ambiance.
What do you mean?
A little banner take. We need the banner.
Oh, okay. Didn't know you wanted the banner. Sorry.
Yeah, the banner. There we go.
All right. That covers up a couple of my picks, but whatever.
Well, they've seen the duration at this point. I think they get it.
I know. Okay. So, Dragon, let's you know what? I tell you what, let's jump back and forth. I'll say my number 20, you say your number 20, etc.
Okay.
All right. My number 20 is Hell or High Water from 2016.
My number 20 is O.J. Made in America from 2016.
All right. Number 19, Birdman or The Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance from 2014.
Number 19 for me, Deadpool 2 from 2018.
Number 18 is 127 Hours from 2010.
Number 18 for me, Won't You Be My Neighbor from 2018.
Number 17, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood from 2019.
17 for me, Megamind from 2010.
16, Kubo and the Two Strings from 2016.
16, Inception from 2010.
15, Little Women from 2019.
15, Avengers Infinity War from 2018.
Right, 14, Django Unchained from 2012.
14, Captain America Civil War from 2016.
13, Parasite 2019.
13, Batman The Dark Knight Returns from 2013.
12, Won't You Be My Neighbor 2018.
Number 12, one word, Logan from 2017.
11, Inside Out from 2015.
Number 11 for me, The Shape of Water from 2017.
Number 10, one more very dramatic word, Dunkirk from 2017.
Number 10, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse from 2018.
Number 9, Coco 2018.
Number 9 as well for me, Coco 2017.
Number 8, Guardians of the Galaxy from 2014.
Number 8 for me, Inside Out from 2015.
Number 7, The Lighthouse from 2019.
Number 7,
which is, for the record, the highest ranked movie of the most recent year. So yeah, distinguished honor there. Go ahead.
Gotcha.
Sorry.
Small victories, love it. Okay, number 7, Toy Story 4 from 2019.
Right. Number 6, Whiplash from 2014.
Number 6, Avengers Endgame from 2019.
Number 5, Moonrise Kingdom from 2012.
Number 5, Avengers from also 2012.
Number 4, Mad Max Fury Road 2015.
Number 4, Guardians of the Galaxy from 2014.
Number 3, La La Land from 2017.
Number 3, very appropriately, Toy Story 3 from 2010.
Number 2, also from 2010, is The Social Network.
Number 2, Captain America, The Winter Soldier from 2014. I'm with you till the end of the line.
And one more 2010 one to round things off, Scott Pilgrim versus the World, 2010.
Numero uno, Deadpool from 2016.
All right. So, Dragon, I think we learned a little bit about each other. We learned a little bit about ourselves. Are you looking forward to doing this in another 5 years? Do you like a top 150 movies of the past 15 years?
Oh god, we gotta add 50
No,
up.
no. We'll do a top 200 for once we get to, I don't know, 2030 or something. We'll see. Eventually, we'll just do like a top 500, like the Rolling Stones. All right. In all seriousness, Dragon, did you enjoy this exercise in the long run? Because I know you were kind of intimidated by it.
Well, I'm still intimidated by it, but at the end of the day, we get the top 20 really strong picks going on there, and we talked a lot of movies. And it's fun.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. I'm going to hopefully have a playlist of all 5 of these installments, so you guys can just kind of marathon it in one go if you wish. Good luck with everything going on out there with the C word of it all. I don't like to refer to it as its name. As far as I'm concerned, that's like saying Voldemort. And
just for ladies out there,
everyone.
not that C word. See you, folks.
Have a good night, everyone.
See you at the movies.